Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, and we have an exciting program lined up for you tonight. We are going to go live to the Kennedy Space Center and pick up the live feed directly from NASA, bringing you the launch tonight of the Artemis II rocket to the moon. That's right, we are going back to the moon. I do need to make sure we are running on all channels. Checking over here. There we go, we're live everywhere and ready to go to the moon tonight. And here we go. Live everywhere. Okay, so let's move back over here and let's pick up this feed now. They're running, I can tell you before we go to the NASA feed that we are only minutes away, actually, from the launch. And the astronauts have been saying that they hope that what they do will inspire children around the world to basically reach for the stars. And they've just been running some video here on the feed of a school tour that recently took place at the Kennedy Space Center. But here we go now live to the NASA feed to pick up the Artemis II launch to the moon. This is a 10-day mission, an international effort. In fact, one of the astronauts is Canadian, Jeremy Hansen. He's actually from my hometown of London, Ontario, Canada. But soon, he'll be orbiting the moon. Let's go to the Kennedy Space Center, where everything is a go.
Of our launch window, and right now we are targeting the top of that launch
Less than
window,
20
so
minutes to go until they
in about 19 minutes.
launch.
Wow,
Yeah.
I don't know if I expected this today. I'm excited, and I'm glad they were able to clear the problem with the battery on the LAS, and everything has gone really smoothly today. It's been great. The weather cleared up. It's a beautiful day for a launch.
And so now, as we are so close to possibly launch now, just what are your final thoughts as we are about to embark on a mission back to the moon, the first time in more than 50 years?
Yeah, just so proud of the crew and all of the teams here on the ground that made this happen. They are carrying the torch from the Apollo era into the Artemis era. And, as the crew likes to say, they want to be the shoulders that the next generation.
And let's see, GLS, can you help us with that, please?
They want to be the crew wants to be the shoulders that the next generation can climb on.
001.
I think it's in their patch. We're going for all. It's in the name of their capsule, integrity, representing humility and the professionalism of everyone that got them there today. So proud of them. We love them. We're excited for them, and we cannot wait to see what they see.
Just leveraging everything we've learned so far as an agency, taking us from Apollo now to the launch pad here, 39B, with Orion and SLS poised to again fly us into the history books.
And we are going live early tonight to bring you the live coverage of the launch of Artemis II.
Into operations, we just wanted to answer one question for you guys. We asked you earlier on today, what are you most excited for? And we asked you to go vote on Instagram and Twitch. Instagram, you guys said launch. Twitch, you guys said lunar flyby. So I think you guys will all be very excited since we are now about 17 minutes from the opening of our launch window today. And so with that, as we approach terminal count, let's send it back to Daryl Nail in firing room 1. Daryl.
All right, thank you, Megan and Nicole, and just want to give you an update on the launch abort system that you just reported that they cleared. They believe, they're convinced this is an instrumentation failure. So there are 2 batteries on the LAS. The LAS, of course, and with the help of my 2-year-old son's model rocket, Daniel said I could use this, so it's okay. The LAS is right here. It's the tower above Orion. Orion capsule's inside of here. It's used to pull Orion off the rocket in case something's going on with the rocket, either on the pad or in flight. 2 batteries are bad. Well, I'm sorry. One of the 2 batteries reported an out-of-family temperature, and it was very much out of family. And so they checked their data going back into the vehicle assembly building where they recharged the batteries and worked on them. And they have good, solid data, they reported, that tells them that this is an instrumentation failure, that there's something wrong with the sensor. And so they took it before the mission management team, which has to accept the risk, any changes to launch commit criteria, which this would be one, and they all fully accepted it. So now we are clear as far as that constraint is concerned. And one quick thing as we count down now, we are getting into the final minutes before liftoff. There's a 2-hour window. We haven't quite set the T0 yet, but this is a list of the cutouts. There are 150 cutouts that are included for this 2-hour launch window, and that's important. They're in very small print. That's important because there's basically 16 minutes inside this window that they cannot launch. And these are because of small things flying in orbit. There's a lot more things in orbit than there were back in Artemis 1 when we had 35 to 40 cutouts. For that reason, because of these 156 cutouts, they're going to be managing the launch window as we go forward. So they may have to wait out one of these cutouts. They range in time between 2 seconds to 23 seconds, but you'll hear the NASA test director talk through that. We're getting ready to merge that loop from NASA test director Jeff Spaulding. And so now I'm listening to the launch team get ready to merge their operational channel. We're now entering one of the most consequential phases of launch day, and that's terminal count, the final 10 minutes.
And OTC, NTD, N212 for comm check?
Good, comm. How me?
I hear you the same. STC?
2.
GTC?
GTC is on 212.
All right, copy that.
NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding confirming communications with his team. There will be 2 polls that we'll hear. One from Spaulding, the NASA Test Director, confirming the ground systems and the launch team are ready to proceed. At this point, we have a clear board, no constraints, but we need confirmation from each individual on the NASA Test Director team. So we'll hear him poll his team. The other poll that we're waiting for is the poll from Launch Director Charlie Blackwell Thompson, who will take that final status from NASA management before giving the go to come out of a hold. And you're seeing the clock count down at L-12 minutes.
CCL, OTC, Orion, RS1.
So yes, Jack Hager, Vietnam veteran,
Yes, sir.
and author joining us.
Primary loop ISO valves.
Should be at the top of the hour or thereabouts.
CDR, OTC, Orion, RS1.
Go.
ARS loop ISO valves are being closed at this time.
Integrity copies.
And we will also have President Trump's address to the nation live later this evening as well.
With MER manager regarding the observation the CIs had a few minutes ago. They were able to confirm with BCI photos that the condition that they observed has been there since 2025. MER manager has had a chance to review the findings, and they do not have any constraints from either a CIS or MER manager perspective.
Everything's looking good.
Okay. Copy all. And Launch Director, NTD, you copy?
Yes, sir. I copy. That's good news.
OTC, CCL 212.
OTC.
We're going back to the moon.
Ventilation valve configuration is complete.
Copy.
And CGLS NTD, cancel pending, please.
CLS copies, and that's complete.
All right, and for all personnel, we got a little bit more work to do before we pick up the clock, and we're about a little over a minute from getting to T-minus 10 minutes, but we've canceled the resume time there, and then we'll pick it up after we get through all of our work and anything else that we need to do to get through the remainder of counts. So we'll continue working that to get to our T0 today. So when we get to about 50 seconds from now, we'll extend that hold.
CVSE OTC. CVSE 400-290, looking to verify that we are configured for ascent. Yep, give me about 2 more minutes. I'm going to start CMA2 streaming. Copy.
NTD, COSE, hold requested.
Copy that.
I have an LCC violation of O-CT-004, S-band transponder anomaly. This was a transient LCC violation, so transponder 1 had a demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this is transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
All right, let's see, LPE NTD.
Yeah, we're not seeing that hit, so I guess the question for COSE, was that less than 3 samples? Is that below our persistence?
Stand by, let me look. It did look like it did persist for several seconds on mine, but let me take a look at the number of samples.
Could I get a repeat on the affected LCC, please?
Yes, ma'am, that's going to be O-CT-004.
Thank you.
So we're in a holding pattern. But I think we're still looking pretty good.
Taking a look at the data right here, it looks like that was a single sample.
Yeah, copy that. RFTS does report that they also lost lock for about 5 seconds. So I would love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
And COSE, while we're doing that, these are 1/10 hertz measurements, correct? So we would have had to lose it for over 10 seconds to get a second sample?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It is 1/10 hertz.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir, I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We're checking with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but it sounds like they have a loss of lock as well. About 2 seconds.
Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Yeah, so from the integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
And this is Houston Flight. We have lock and we have good telemetry here in GSE.
And KUS is reported to. They have good walk now. So with all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Right. LP, you concur with that?
Yes, sir. LP concurs go.
And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, Launch Director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of.
No, sir. Let's verify all our work is complete, and I would like one last check of our constraints list.
All right, let's see. OTC, are you still waiting for ComConfig, or are you
That is
complete with
affirmed, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
you only open item?
Yeah, OTC, this is CVSC. That 400 step 290 is complete. Copy.
Okay, so OTC, you're complete with all of your work?
That's affirmed.
All right, copy that. STC?
STC is complete.
And GTC?
GTC is complete.
Okay, excellent. All right, and LPE, just want to verify we have no open constraints at this time.
No open constraints. We have a clear board, sir.
Okay, tracking the same here. And Launch Director, with that, we are clear and ready to pick up the launch readiness poll with your go.
All right, sir. I am go for the poll.
All right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
GTC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
CO's go.
Safety Console.
The safety console is go.
LPE.
LP's go.
RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston Flight.
Houston flight is go.
ROC.
Rock is go.
And CDR.
Cruise go.
Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And Launch Director NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll. Attention on the net. This is the Launch Director performing the final poll for launch, verifying no constraints, and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
The Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range Weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMT's go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good Air Airways Charlie, PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go. And NTD Launch Director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. You have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR, NTD.
Go.
Your risers and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8 and 9 going to work.
Copy. CVSC, NTD. Start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras.
Copy. Okay. Well, there you heard it.
RSR, NTD.
RSR.
They're getting ready to start terminal count.
arm rotation enable at this time, please.
It's currently at T-minus 10 minutes. Once we wrap up this last bit of work,
SNA arm rotation enable complete.
we're going to start that clock.
Copy that. Thank you.
Integrity crew, close and lock visors.
You heard an issue, worked in real time with telemetry lock on the Orion. It was transitory, it was very short. They checked the data, confirmed that they had a good lock. This was with the S-band transmitter on the Orion. Worked through that issue, looked at the data, and cleared it. All with the world watching. Impressive work by the launch team. So we have a 2-hour window, which starts in just a few minutes at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time and goes until 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
And ECL NTD will be waiting for your verification on the short purge.
ECL copies.
And for all personnel, once we get that short purge verification, we'll verify that we are clear to go, and then we'll proceed with the terminal count. ECL time estimate?
About a minute.
Copy.
So we're going into the launch window, but not by much, it looks like. Just wrapping up some final work. And once that's completed, you'll hear NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding ask for the ground launch sequencer operator to go ahead and start the clock. The ground launch sequencer is an application software. It runs on top of the launch control system in the firing room, acts like a conductor of an orchestra, executing hundreds of commands in precise order and timing. It's all autonomous.
NTD CCL 212, short purge initiation is verified.
All right, copy that, and we're verifying our constraints. All right, and we're clear from cutouts. And with that, we're going to resume the clock momentarily. And CGLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. 3, 2, 1, mark. GLS mainline has been initiated.
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
And that begins terminal count. Our new T0 is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II. From now on, you're going to hear two voices on the loops. If everything goes nominally, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding, who's directly managing the launch team, and Alex Bendelos, the GLS operator who closely monitors the software. He has the ability to stop and restart the countdown. A lot of people ask about whether there's a launch button. There certainly is not.
Flight and Rock, our new T0 is 22:35:12.
Houston flight copies. Rock copies. 22:35:12.
Affirm.
There you heard confirmation of the exact T0, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Again, our T0 is 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. But as I was saying, there's no launch button. This is autonomous. But there is a button that keeps you from launching, and that button allows the GLS operator to pause the countdown outside of terminal count and during terminal count and submit a hold to the next holding point. So the clock won't stop right away. If there's an issue, we'll go to the next stable holding point. This is how GLS configures the rocket and ground systems to a stable point where they can stop the countdown if that's needed. But right now, we are counting down our next big milestone, looking to retract the crew access arm.
GLS is go for crew access arm retract.
And there you see the crew access arm moving away.
53 years since we've been to the moon.
That's the path that the astronauts took to ingress into the rocket. Until this point, that was their way off the pad if they needed to evacuate. But now with that arm retracting, the backup transitions to a launch abort system. And they'll begin arming that shortly.
1972 was the last time.
Of course, the launch abort system, great shot there of the crew access arm retracting away. The launch
NASA
abort system is the tower at the top.
sent a rocket to the
pull
moon.
Orion and its crew off the top of the rocket in case of an emergency, whether it's on the ground or in flight. This is critical safety hardware that protects the lives of the astronauts. Starting at T-minus 6 minutes, the GLS will start bringing that and other high-energy systems online, starting with core stage pressurization. Weather is 90% go. The range is go. All systems are go.
GLS is go for core stage tank pressurization.
They have had previous dates
That means the
canceled, but
replenish
not this
valve for
time.
the liquid hydrogen tank has now closed, and that tank is beginning to pressurize to flight levels because that hydrogen is naturally boiling inside the tank. We'll get the liquid oxygen tank a little later in the count. Now the team is waiting for verification that, if needed, the Artemis II crew could use the launch abort system to pull Orion safely off the top of the rocket in an emergency. Let's listen in for that call.
GLS verifies last capability available.
And CDR, do you copy?
CDR copies, last available.
That's great news, and you heard the NTD verify that with the commander of the mission.
GLS is go for FTS arm.
Now work is being done to arm the flight termination system. This is so the range safety can send a flight termination command if the rocket flies too far off track. There's a brief built-in delay, so the launch abort system has time to pull the astronauts to
GLS is
safety
go for
first.
LH2 high flow bleed check.
All right, the high flow bleed check. That's so the cryo team gets verification that the RS-25 engines, all 4 of them, are in the proper temperature range for launch.
Just minutes away. We're live. So they're not landing on the moon, but they are going around the moon. When they get there,
GLS is go for core stage APU start.
it's
Core stage APUs start. Those are auxiliary power units, high-speed turbines which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25 engines. We're going to see a gimbal test a little later at T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is what allows that to happen.
and it's a 10-day round-trip mission.
Coming up in about 20 seconds, we're listening for go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve. This gets all the air and moisture out of there.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to get that thrust vector control actuator test. This is a gimbaling of the engines. There are the 4 RS-25s, 3 of them Shuttle Heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving. Now we're going to start moving the power from both the upper stage and the lower stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS is go for upper stage to internal power.
All right, power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, the 4-person Artemis II crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
One minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's onboard autonomous launch sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate MECO. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on 4 main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same?
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engine's throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state, ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Houston Integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8+02.
We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on TDRS at the Carmen line.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Integrity, GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan. We see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time, now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry Integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time, we're seeing 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity, 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling, expected at the 7-minute mark. Integrity, 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity copies nominal shutdown.
Six minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight. 7 minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time. About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Integrity and nominal MECO, core stage separated.
We see the same on board, Stan.
Eight minutes 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon. Core stage has separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft. Nine minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston, looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad.
Capcom Stan Loves now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition. That time being 49 minutes, 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
Integrity, good. NEDs deploy.
Crew of 4 aboard.
Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds.
Commander Reed Wiseman. The pilot is Victor Glover, a U.S. Navy captain and astronaut. Christine Koch, mission specialist.
And Integrity Houston for PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
And Jeremy Hansen from my hometown of London, Ontario.
Halfway open.
A Canadian.
Passing 11 minutes of mission elapsed time. Here, overhearing the conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman, already passing some milestones. We have a good nozzle extension deployment system. That is confirmed. Complete. We also have the visors are confirmed up now past the dynamic phase of flight, that is ascent. Their launch and entry suits that provided them an extra layer of protection, now not as needed. They're going to raise those visors. And later in today's mission, they will begin to egress or get out of the suits to begin some of their initial tasks of activating some of the systems aboard in the Integrity spacecraft. It's passing 12 minutes of mission elapsed time. Again, the perigee raise maneuver that's targeted near 50 minutes of mission elapsed time, 49 minutes 50 seconds. That's what the crew is going to be working towards. The Commander Reed Wiseman, pilot Victor Glover will focus on preparing for that milestone. In the meantime, mission specialist Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen will start some of the activation of environmental control life support systems. You may hear confirmation of their activation over the Orion to Earth communication network.
Houston, C3 aux power back in auto.
Copy C3 aux, and we're 2 minutes to maneuver.
"13 minutes and 30 seconds of mission elapsed time. We're going to continue to follow the crew of the Artemis II mission. They are beginning their journey around the moon to verify the systems that will take us to its surface. An incredible ascent. Artemis II is underway. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen begin their journey to the moon. Still milestones to come up as we await solar array deploy and the critical burns that will get Integrity into high Earth orbit around the Earth before engines are fired to get us around the moon. We'll keep tabs on Integrity and its crew from here in Mission Control Houston. But for now, we're going to send it back to you, Megan and Nicole at the Kennedy Space Center. Very jealous to hear how the launch experience was over on the Space Coast.
Yeah, Gary, if people are just joining us, welcome back to the Space Coast, where we just saw Artemis II lift off 14 minutes ago. And wow, what an amazing launch, and an emotional one too. As soon as the rocket lifted off, Nicole, you had tears in your eyes, I had tears in my eyes, and we had all these people around us cheering. It was amazing.
Yeah, the energy was wonderful. I mean, it was a beautiful launch. You know, we've got 4 friends and family members headed to the moon. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, how does that make you feel as someone who, you know, is an astronaut as well, but also, as you said, friends?
Yeah, so proud of them. You know, man, we don't have the words in the English language to describe this kind of an event, and pride, love, so many emotions. You know, they are truly breaking some barriers, and hopefully, you know, as Gary just said, they've got a long day ahead of them, so wishing them well on everything, but so far, what a beautiful launch to watch.
Yeah, to be returning to the lunar orbit in more than 50 years. Maybe they go farther from Earth than any other humans before them. Maybe they see parts of the moon that we've never seen before. I mean, what a great start to what could be all of these milestones that we break in just a 10-day mission.
Yes, what a way to welcome in the Artemis generation.
Yeah, how do you feel? I mean, we saw some beautiful shots we were covering of course, the rocket, of course, the Earth falling away as we continued up into our ascents, but also some of those crowd shots where we saw young and old, just emotional, overcome by this history-making moment.
Man, we are going back to the moon for all, and we saw that today. We saw that in all the crowds. And yeah, you guys just saw that view, the sunrise or sunset, I guess. They just made it over the crest of the Earth, and you could see the sun peeking over. One of my favorite views from space. And I can't imagine what they're looking at now, and I can't wait to see what they're looking at in about 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, and you know, I know a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm surprised this launched on the first try, because we know, like any little thing, we have to be keeping safety in mind, and we want to make sure we're ready to go. But we were ready to go, and I think it surprised a lot of people. What a wonderful surprise on this Wednesday evening.
It did, you know, and it kind of surprised me as well. But you know, it's just a testament to the team here that has been working so hard on Artemis. You know, Artemis 1, we learned a ton of lessons. We learned a ton from the wet dress for Artemis 2. We were able to go in, fix those things. We even had a couple mishaps today, not mishaps, but a couple, you know, anomalies today that the team creatively came up with solutions for. It's just a testament to the teamwork that gets us to the moon.
And so we can continue to watch Christina, Reed, Victor, and Jeremy on their way now to the moon in Earth's orbit and awaiting the next in-flight milestones, deploying Orion's solar arrays. So why don't we get back in with Mission Control and Gary.
Hey, thank you, Megan. Again, we're following along in the action. It is a long day. They have a number of procedures they need to get to immediately in their timeline.
And Integrity Houston, cross-tie is on board per the ETSI-DEM.
We copy Houston. Thank you.
Cross-tie referring to flight controllers here initiating a connection between some of the batteries aboard the Orion spacecraft, allowing for an even distribution of power. This is the flight control teams that took us through ascent of the Artemis II mission today. Right now we're, as you see, passing 18 minutes of mission elapsed time. The Orion spacecraft integrity and the interim cryogenic propulsion system are maneuvering tail to sun. It is in this orientation, this attitude.
Integrity anywhere until that momentary prop caution.
And Reed, no action. We're looking at it.
Commander Reed Wiseman verifying what is being routed to his displays aboard integrity. Propulsion engineer confirming that no action is needed at this time. They're pressing through with their nominal procedures to prepare for the perigee raise maneuver. And of course, the solar array wing deploy ahead of that. The solar wing deploy is a critical milestone. We'll continue to have our coverage follow the mission until that deployment. A successful launch is just the beginning. The deployment of the solar arrays and successful confirmation that those solar array wings are drawing power is a significant milestone and says to the flight control teams that we will continue on today's mission. Power needs to be drawn to continue through some of the next milestones. Until then, the AOA open option that was called up upon ascent, the aboard once around, is the current option, and abort to orbit option ATO will be switched to a preferred mode at the time that the solar array wings are deployed and latched. It gives the flight control teams a little bit more flexibility.
Integrity Houston, update on TDRS handover for your pad.
Give us just 1 minute. And Stan, you can read it. Ike is ready to copy.
Roger. TDRS handover east to west expected 1 second earlier at 5:1 minutes 26 seconds.
Hi, Stan. We copy 1 second earlier for 5126 TDRS east to west, and saws are starting to deploy. Thermal knives are firing.
We concur. Thanks for the report.
Read back of the reports that you just heard on the Orion to Earth network. Integrity has maneuvered tail to sun. The RL-10 nozzle on the end of the ICPS is pointed towards the sun. The solar array deployment sequence has begun. With the deployment confirmed, it'll be several minutes until they are what is called in a latched position. Once they are latched and confirmed to be drawing power, they can switch the mode to ATO and continue along the mission. The teacher's handover at the pad, that message meant the crew was provided some preliminary numbers of when to expect handovers between the tracking and data relay satellites. Currently orbiting Earth at an altitude of 545 statute miles. above the Earth. They are in a near-Earth network communication system, the tracking and data relay satellites, geosynchronous satellites that are stationed about 23,000 miles above the Earth. After the apogee rays burn, that occurs later today, the burn itself will put them in an altitude that surpasses the range of the tracking and data relay satellites, and they will transition to the deep space network today.
And Integrity, for prop messages, we see 2 temperature measurements right near the line. It's that momentary message you saw earlier. We're going to suppress those. It's CM helium heater 2 T1 and heater 1 T1. They're going suppressed.
Integrity, thank you. We see the same.
This is Mission Control Houston, passing 23 minutes of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. This is after a launch that began at 5:35 and 12 seconds Central Time, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Right now, the orientation you're seeing from our aero visualization that translates some of the telemetry that we're getting from the spacecraft and puts it into a model so you can follow along on some of the milestones that we are following here. The RL-10 nozzle that you see at the left end of your screen, though it is currently not firing, that nozzle is pointed towards the sun, and the solar arrays are currently deploying. From this visualization, they look fully stowed in a position.
Integrity, we are happy to report that Jeremy has the O2 sensors on.
Copy O2 sensors.
Again, Commander Reed Wiseman and pilot Victor Glover overseeing the deployment of the solar arrays. And we'll follow the attitude maneuver changes ahead of the first burn of the ICPS engine, the perigee raise maneuver.
Integrity Houston, we see 4 saws deployed and latched, ready for ATO preferred.
Yeah, we're almost there in the procedure stand, and we see the same thing.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
15, 16.
Okay, let's bring our guest in for tonight. There he is. Welcome back, sir. Jack Hager. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you here tonight, and what an exciting day this is. I have to tell you, I haven't seen this since I was a kid. It's been 53 years since we went to the moon, Jack, and here we go again. I remember getting up as a little kid, watching moon shots on television in black and white. Were you big into the space race when you were younger? What memories does this bring back for you?
Same as yours. I was a little older, of course, but
yeah.
Watching that first launch and then going through the couple tragedies that happened later, and then probably a lot of breaths being held as this launch transpired. But it's great to see that it's all successful. Everything looks good, and the next 10 days should be interesting.
Yes, and very inspirational and a positive thing. And we need lots of positivity these days, as much as we can get. I have to tell you too, I'm excited, personally too, because there's a Canadian on board, Jeremy Hansen is from my hometown in London,
thought you might be.
Ontario. And so I'm pretty pumped about that. That's incredible. I'm so grateful we can be part of all of this tonight, and I'm glad that you can join us as well. And it's been a while since you've been
the
on.
First Canadian in space?
No, we've had other Canadians up there on space shuttles and such as well. But this is a big one because we're going back to the moon. Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
It sure is. And again, excited to have you here. Vietnam veteran, author of a book explaining, I guess, how you kind of came to find God. And also, you told us the last time you were on about some of your experiences in Vietnam and how you kind of became, how you found your way in life, because you have a lot of different titles. But why don't I throw it over to you and let you introduce yourself again to our audience, because it has been, how long has it been since you've been on the program? Probably a year at least, or maybe longer.
I think, I can't remember what it was, but I guess a flyover is, as you mentioned, Vietnam vet, born into a military family, stereotypical child of the 60s, into alcohol early, started living on my own at the age of 14, went in the military after graduation from high school, did Korea for 2 years, Germany for 2 months, the rest in Vietnam, was honorably discharged. At that point in my life, not now, but at that point in my life, I hated this country because of the way we had not fought Vietnam and a few other reasons. Again, I do not hate it now, but I hated it then. So I escaped, went to Kwajalein out in the Marshall Islands, which was downrange for the Pacific Missile Range, by the way. Hung around there for a while, came back to Hawaii, hung around there for a while, went to the left coast, was involved in drugs and guns and some other multi-level marketing, and that happened to be illegal. I'm sure there are some people that think all multi-level marketing should be illegal, but that's another conversation. Eventually got busted in Texas in 1973. In 1974, through reading the Bible, I became a stumbling follower of Jesus Christ, subsequently sentenced to a dime, 10 years in prison. After 4 years, I was paroled, went to a Bible school that doesn't exist anymore in Kansas City, and since 1978, I have been in full-time youth prison camp church ministry, and every day I'm amazed I get to do what I get to do, like be on your show.
And it's our privilege to have you here. And I asked you to join us tonight for a bunch of reasons. First, I miss you. And secondly, some other people have mentioned you from time to time who remember you from being on the program the first time. And also because of all the things going on in the world right now. We have the war in Ukraine, we have this war in Iran, and we have, inspirational and positive things going on as well. But I was hoping maybe to get your thoughts on some of these things going on in the world from your perspective as someone who has been down that road where, you've been involved in the war in Vietnam. You've seen the mistakes that America has made along the way, but somehow you still found your path back to loving your country and finding a way to help others. And so with that, and the president is going to address the nation tonight about this war in Iran, which concerns everybody. It's affecting the entire world. And I'm just interested in, let's start right there. How's this making you feel, or what are your initial thoughts that you can share with us on this?
Well, again, I'm not an expert like Bruce Springsteen. I guess he got in trouble for making words about the president. But anyway, I suppose my biggest concern at this point is hoping we don't put feet on the ground in Iran. You'd think we'd learn after Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Hopefully we have, but once you put boots on the ground, it changes everything. And as we know, too many American men and women, and Canadians for that matter, and many other nations, have died in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and I'm sorry, but they died for nothing. And, you know, I'm not smart enough to know whether we should have gone into Vietnam, but I am just barely smart enough to understand you cannot go in unless you're fully committed to win, instead of putting parameters around the fighting men and women that make it impossible to win. And there's a lot of reasons why we lost Vietnam, but it wasn't because of the American fighting man and the American fighting woman. It was because of some 4-star generals and some people back in the Pentagon that simply would not let us win. And I just fear that if we put boots on the ground in Iran or anywhere else, the same thing will happen. I don't think I ever had PTSD from Nam, but I was enraged the last couple days in Afghanistan when we were pulling out, and it looked exactly like Vietnam when we pulled out. Leaving people behind that we promised to protect, chaos all over the place. And I don't think I'm a cynic. I think I'm a realist. If we do put boots on the ground in Iran, or anywhere else for that matter, I think it'll happen all over again, because we don't have the wherewithal to fully commit and to get the job done. And again, I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong or indifferent, but if you do it, if you're going to put men and women in harm's way, back them up, let them do their job instead of corralling them. Every time I think of it, I think of the old John Wayne movie where he's chasing the bad guys and they cross into Mexico and he reins back his horse and says, "Oh, I wish we could go after them, but we can't." That was the Cambodian border for us.
Yeah, when the internet froze up there, just give it a moment and he'll come back, I think. I hope. Did we lose our connection? Oh boy. Just give it a moment. It'll catch up, I expect. A little bit of a glitch. Okay, let's take, he lost his internet connection, so let's just take a short break and we will reconnect with Jack Hager on the other side of this.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV,
the entire world is watching.
On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
Jack is back, and there he is. Yeah, we lost your internet connection for a moment. Yeah, it's still a little bit glitchy. But, I couldn't quite hear you
Technology is
there,
great
Jack.
when it works. Technology is great when it works. Yep.
I hope that radio system on the Artemis II works better than the internet down here on Earth.
Every time I watch one of those launches or think about it, I can't remember the name of the movie. I think Bruce Willis was in it or something, and they're sitting on the launch pad getting ready to go, and he looks at somebody else and says, "Have you ever realized that we're in a ship with 6,585,000 parts, all built by the lowest bidder?"
That's about the way it goes in our society, right? Oh my. But yeah, I just back to the situation in Iran. A lot of people very concerned because I don't think the American public wants to see boots on the ground. People are concerned about the safety of the service personnel over there, and it's a very unstable situation. That's why the president, I guess, is going to address the nation tonight. Not really clear what he is going to talk about or what he's going to say. Some speculation that he has some sort of... Sorry, what's that?
He probably isn't either.
Yeah, that's right. He'll make it up when he gets there. But some people thinking maybe he has some sort of a deal or not. I really don't know what to expect. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with President Trump. So we'll see tonight at about 9 o'clock this evening. So
it should be interesting regardless.
Yeah. Yeah, take us back to Vietnam and share some of those thoughts that you kind of touched on. It was frustrating for you because, as you say, there were people in charge that wouldn't let America and the troops there win the war. And is that why you ended up at the time hating your country?
Yeah, that was pretty much it. And backtracking a little bit, I mentioned that I was in Korea and Germany. And as Providence would have it, I was in Korea when the North Koreans hijacked the Pueblo, which most people have no idea what I just talked about. Mm-hmm. But they stole a spy ship. It was, in fact, a spy ship. They seized it. And that point when I was stationed in South Korea was the most scared I've ever been in my life, because silly me, I did not think we would sell those guys out. But in fact, we did sell them out. And I also knew, because of my job, because of my security clearance, I knew that in violation to just about everything there was, virtually everything we had in South Korea was nuclear. So I really thought we were on the verge of some type of a limited nuclear war. Instead, they tried to get some fighter jets from Japan, but by the time they got to North Korea, the Pueblo was already in the harbor and they'd seized it. And they'd killed one man during the seizure. They kept the other guys for a little over a year, I guess. And then they tried to court-martial the captain. That was idiotic. Anyway, that was my first introduction to the fact that the United States wasn't going to back its military when it came down to nuts and bolts. Then I went to Germany, and I was in Germany when the Russians invaded Czechoslovakia. We knew about that 2 weeks ahead of time. We rolled up on the border and gathered intel, gathered information, and watched Russia run into Czechoslovakia. And I don't know whether we should have tried to stop that or anything, but again, I realized we know a whole lot of stuff, but then what do we do with it? Then I get to Vietnam, and Vietnam was just a new type of warfare for America. It was a nasty type of warfare. You did not know who the bad guy was. And personally, the biggest thing was the limitations they put on us in destroying the enemy. I mentioned Cambodia a while ago. My commanding officer in Vietnam was Colonel George S. Patton IV. You may have heard of his father. And he was a poor guy. He thought we were there to win. And he tried to use the 11th Armored Cav to win. And one time we were chasing the 274th Viet Cong Regiment. They crossed over into Cambodia, and Colonel Patton came on the radio telephones and said, all track commanders, disregard your blankety blank maps. We're going after those blankety blanks. We crossed into Cambodia and pretty much wiped them out. It wasn't long after that because they couldn't court-martial him because of whose son he was, they promoted him to one-star general and sent him back to the States. I don't think that was a coincidence in time. I think they just wanted to get rid of the guy, whoever they are. And I think they are begins with the commander-in-chief and goes to the chief of staff of the army, et cetera, and so forth, where they decide for whatever political reasons that we can't go into Cambodia, we can't go into Thailand, we can't go into Laos. And of course, the Viet Cong and the NVA knew that. So they had their safety net. They could cross the border, hit us, cross the border again, and not worry too much about suffering ill effects. That, to me, was the most distressing part.
Yeah, Vietnam. It just became a war where they would just. It was like a body count war in the end. It seemed like the objectives, whatever they were to begin with, just somehow became distorted and lost, and they didn't really know what to do. So they just came up with a series of metrics to show some kind of success, and that really, I think, was, as I understand it, I wasn't there, but just how many people were killed today, or what did you blow up, and just count this and count that, and that's the success. But strategically, politically, they didn't really achieve what they were there for, or what you think
absolutely
they would be
not.
there for.
And
yeah,
part of the reason I think was you just had tour duty was a year, 13 months for Marines, so you had guys coming in, coming out. There wasn't any continuity in a unit. I was on a track on an Armored Cavalry assault vehicle, 6 guys, and from week to week, those guys might change, either by getting killed or wounded, but often they would be derossed, going back to the States, and here come a new guy that had never been in combat before, had never been out of the country before, 18, 19 years old, and the continuity wasn't there. Whereas in World War II, for instance, the 2nd Armored Division moved as a division, and they trained as a division, they moved as a division, they fought as a division, and I think that made the war somewhat easier to win in World War II, as opposed to the part-time warriors in Vietnam, where the Viet Cong and the NVA, they weren't going anywhere. They didn't get rest and recreation leaves. They were there, and they were committed, and they were there to win. The average Vietnamese, he didn't care who won. He just was tired of 1,500 years of warfare around him. He just wanted some kind of peace. And, it was distressing and still is.
Yeah. So what was it that brought you back to loving America?
Well, part of it was coming to faith in Christ in jail, where one of the commandments is to, not commandments, but one of the commands is to pray for those in authority. The Bible does not say to pray for those in authority whom you agree with. The Bible says to pray for those in authority. So I've tried to pray for the governor, the president, et cetera, and so forth, and recognizing that it certainly is not God's country. In my opinion, it never has been God's country, but it beats most of the alternatives, with the exception of Canada, of course, sort of. But, it
remains to be seen. Yeah, but yeah, okay.
We're such a mess, politically, socially. As you mentioned earlier, it's just everything is so stinking negative. And probably the epitome of that to me is because of my faith and because of the way I think in general, there's a lot of times I disagree with people, but that does not mean that I hate those people. Yeah. Whereas they frequently take it, for instance, the issue of homosexuality. I think the Bible's pretty clear on that that does not mean I hate homosexuals. Right. And I think if we can't disagree agreeably, what's the point in talking? And that's kind of fatalistic, and I don't mean it that way. I still would like to discuss things with people, but I don't want to get yelled at just because I don't agree with them. And we seem to be doing a whole lot of yelling and not a whole lot of listening.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting you brought up, from your perspective, America is not God's country, which is to say a Christian nation, I guess, right? You brought this up, so I'm just going to comment on it because I've had conversations with a few people over the last couple of weeks about that very subject, and I've been, having these discussions with Christians who are like, yes, it is. It's a Christian nation. And I'm, well, here's the Constitution. This is what they say in the Constitution. It really isn't a Christian nation. It makes reference to God, but it's not a Christian nation by law. And there are reasons for that. It's so that you have an inclusive government that brings everybody in and everybody's allowed to practice their religion. I've been thinking about it so much because I've been having these conversations. And I've developed this, and I'm going to bounce it off you. I haven't said this to anybody else. So
okay.
A couple of my friends have been on, and they've been taking the position it's a Christian nation. Here's where I've come to with this. You don't need to make it a Christian nation. In the Constitution, there is reference to God, which is where our rights come from. But it is actually, there's a lot of conceit and presumption in making or saying even that the God referenced in the documents that founded America, to say that there is one true king, which is a Christian God. Because if God is truly the king of not just America, but the whole universe, then it's almost blasphemous in a way to, as a man, then crown the king who is already the king. If he is the king, you don't need to crown him. It will just be thus. But if do you see where I'm going with this? You
Absolutely.
Don't need to say, if he is, then he is. And if he is for you, that's fine. But if he's not for somebody else, they don't have to accept him. But if you enshrine that in law, in a man's law, saying that he's the king and you must accept that, then you are by default turning your country into an authoritarian nation, a theocracy, where you are telling everyone that they must believe in this God. And if you want to be a free nation that honors God, a Christian God, then you can't do that, because Jesus didn't ride into town on a tank. He rode into town on a donkey. And he didn't arm himself with a sword. He armed himself with words and inspiration and love. So and if those things are truly meant to prevail because there is one true king, which is God, then there's a lot of hubris in saying that God is king. He doesn't need you to crown him. Acknowledge him in the Constitution, fine, and say, and just because that's a message to the politicians and kings that our rights come from a higher place, and it's your job to protect our rights. They don't come from the politicians. They come from someplace up higher. But we don't crown him. He's already crowned. We don't need to enshrine it in man's law. It just is. That's natural. And in fact, it's contradictory to do otherwise, to crown the king, to have some human being say, look, this guy's the king. We're going to put the crown on him in our Constitution. We're going to write it down on this document and say so. No, it's already written in the Bible, and if that's what you believe, then you don't need to. that's where I'm coming from with this. You've been reading the Bible a lot more than me, though, so I'll throw it over to you just to get your thoughts. That's where I'm at.
I agree with you completely, and it gets me in trouble, and it will probably get me in trouble this time with many Christians, to include some of my friends.
Yeah.
The Constitution guarantees freedom of religion, not freedom of Christianity.
Right.
And, many of the forefathers were professing Christians. Many of them were deists. They believed in a God, but not necessarily the God of the Bible. And they put together a pretty amazing document. But in my mind, it wasn't birthed as a quote unquote Christian nation. It certainly isn't one now. And I agree with you, it never will be, simply because God so loved the world, not the Republican Party. God so loved the world, not America. God so loved the world, not a certain race. Right. And I think we shoot ourselves in the foot. Kind of an example. Years ago, I was doing school assemblies all over the country, telling my story, talking about personal responsibility, and sharing my faith as much as I could in a public school. Mm-hmm. And the principals would tell me that they'd get all kinds of positive comments, some negative comments. And sometimes I'd hear from an adult saying, it's so great that the school allows you to come in there and share your faith. And I said, I agree with you. But a Mormon should have that same chance, or a Jehovah's Witness, or some other sect that, in my opinion, is not Christian in essence, simply because it's freedom of religion, not freedom of Christianity.
Right.
And sometimes Christians seem to want it their way and no other way. Free speech for me, but not for them. Yes. No, we get free speech for everybody. And the job description of a follower of Christ is to go and make disciples, not go and make Christian nations. My job as a follower of Christ, not because I got a piece of paper on my wall that says I'm a reverend, but because I'm a follower of Christ, one of my jobs is to brag on Jesus, try to introduce Jesus to other people, and one heart at a time, one life at a time, try to make an impact, recognizing that most people are not going to accept that. And trying to, Christian nationalism is getting a lot of press nowadays. I think those people are whacked. I just think they're so off base that it's doing much more damage to the cause of Christ than good.
Yeah, you mentioned the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I about once a week, there's a gentleman who comes to my door, a Jehovah's Witness. He always brings one or two friends with him, and most people I'm not interested, right? No, I open my door and I get into these conversations every week. Usually it's on a Sunday, sometimes midweek, and I will sit there and we have the best conversations. They go on for, an hour. And if my wife's home, she's like, who are you talking to? And it's like, it's my friends. And so, yeah, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not joining the church. I keep asking him, why are you here? Do you want me to join your church? Is that why you, but I really don't want to, but best conversations, life, politics,
persistent.
all these things. Yes. Yeah, they are. And that's okay because it challenges me and I get to share my thoughts too and gives me another ear to bend. But man, there's so much compassion and I think understanding and tolerance in what you just shared with us, Jack. I guess that's has sort of become your mission, right? Because I was looking at your Facebook page the other day, which is one of the reasons I contacted you, and you were talking about being a soldier of Christ, I think was the word you used. But when you say soldier, what do you mean by that?
Well, the Bible itself says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against demons, etc., and so forth. The Christian life, the genuine Christian life, is not a party, it's a fight. And representing Jesus Christ is putting a target on your back, so to speak, not just from demonic forces, but the reason many people despise Christians and Christianity is because of the exclusivity of the gospel. And I'll die on that mountain that Jesus is not a way to heaven. He's not a good way to heaven. He's not even the best way to heaven. He's the only way. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So that's, well, my brother, who passed away and as far as I know never came to Christ, he would frequently say, Jack, you're so stinking narrow-minded. And I'd say, Bob, it's easy to be narrow-minded when you know you're right. And as far as Jesus goes, I know I'm right. There's a million things I'm not sure about. How's the world going to end? A lot of things that Christians argue about. But I do believe and am convinced and stake my life and eternity on the fact that Jesus Christ, on that Good Friday that we celebrate in a couple of days, mounted the cross as a sacrifice, the atoning sacrifice for my sins. He who knew no sin became sin. The wrath of God that should have fallen upon me fell upon Jesus Christ. And when he said it is finished, it was finished. They took him off the cross, they put him in that grave, and then on Resurrection Sunday or Easter Sunday or whatever you want to call it, up from the grave he arose, a mighty triumph over his foes. For a lot of people, that's a cool little story. For me, it's a reality. And if any part of that story was proved to be wrong, I'd go back to some kind of other thing. But I fully understand, check that, I fully believe and accept that Jesus Christ is who he said he was. And because I turned from sin and trusted in him and him alone, I'm his child. And I'm also, there's a little Sunday school song, I'm in the Lord's army. I may never march in the infantry, fight in the cavalry, shoot the artillery, but I'm in the Lord's army. And it's easy to sing, a little tougher to live. That doesn't mean that I have to go out and thump the devil's rump every day or every moment, but it does mean that I need to recognize that if I stand for Jesus Christ, I'm going to take hits. And Ephesians 6 talks about putting on the full armor of God. And therefore, the Bible does liken us to soldiers, but not soldiers who are going to go out and force their will or their beliefs on other people, but in love, share the gospel, share the good news of Jesus Christ, and pray like crazy that God opens their eyes, opens their heart, and they come to faith. That can't be legislated, that can't be forced, but it should be shared.
Sometimes
and in sharing that, because we aren't known to be too tolerant, in sharing that, people are going to call me a narrow-minded right-wing fundamentalist. I can take it. I can take the hit, even though I disagree with that. I don't believe if you're a follower of Christ, you have to belong to a certain political party. I don't believe if you're a follower of Christ, you have to cross every T and dot every I. There are some things that are non-negotiable, but that list is pretty short.
And apparently I'm muted, or so somebody tells me. I don't know if that's true or not. Let me just check the feed here, make sure that everything's still running okay. We seem to be having some. Yeah, I know. I can hear you too. No, we're okay. Whoever thinks I'm muted is probably just don't have their speakers on. They're just sending me a message on the phone, but I can hear it on the live feed, so we're fine. Yeah. So let's just backtrack a little bit and again share with everybody how you came to God, because you were in prison at the time, and then you found a Bible. So tell us that story.
Actually, I was in jail. I got busted December 3rd, 1973 in Texas. A few weeks later, they found some drugs in the cell. They didn't happen to be mine, but there were drugs in the cell, and therefore the cell block. So they took everything out, the TV set, the Monopoly game, the Louis L'Amour Westerns, the magazines. They took everything out except the religious stuff. And after a couple days of having literally nothing to do, I went over to the pile of books. I was not looking for God. I was not looking for a way out. At that point, it was potential that I would spend the rest of my life in prison, depending on how they sentenced me and whether they gave me concurrent sentences and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really care one way or the other. And that's a story in and of itself, that when I got arrested, it was just, okay, here's something new to do, because I had felt I'd done everything twice. At any rate, I went over to the pile of books, and there were a bunch of Bibles and a bunch of other things. But I said to myself, Self, I don't want to read the Bible. I'm a man. I did the crime. I could do the time. I don't need the science fiction stuff, but I do need something to read. And there was a paperback book, had an American flag on the cover, had the word prison as part of the title. I'm not giving the whole title because as I got more mature in my faith, I recognized there was some pretty wacky stuff in that book. Story about a World War II guy, alcoholic, is in jail. A chaplain comes in, leads him to the Lord. He gets out. He starts a church in San Diego, and the church explodes, gets big. He's dead now, but at any rate, as I read that book, I thought, okay, cool story. And that was my first introduction to the Bible, because he kept quoting Bible verses throughout the book. So when I got to the end of that book, I said, well, this guy thinks the Bible is more important than his word. So I think they still hadn't given us our stuff back, had nothing else to do. Went over to the pile of books, picked up a Bible, and for the first time in my spoiled white Anglo-Saxon life, I started reading the Bible. I had no idea what the Bible was. I didn't realize it was a collection of books written over 1,400 years in 3 different languages on 3 different continents, etc., and so forth. I just thought it was a book. So I started at page 1, in the beginning, God, and I worked my way through it. Somehow got through Chronicles and Numbers, got to the Gospels, got to Revelation, and said, okay, that's cool. And I literally threw the Bible across the cell block. I didn't need any of that. But I couldn't get this Jesus stuff out of my head. So I went back, picked it up again, read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John again particularly. And looking back on it, I think humanly speaking, the first thing that attracted me to the person of Jesus Christ was the realization that, as recorded in the Gospels, he never had anything bad to say to the hookers, to the prostitutes. He never put down the tax collectors and the other scumbags like me. In fact, the only people he did put down, the only people he did yell at, were the religious people. And I thought that was kind of cool. These people thought they were good because they didn't do this or they did do this. They had their little list of do's and don'ts. And I think their unconscious thought was, isn't God lucky to have me? And Jesus blasted them as whitewashed tombs and some other things. So that kind of impressed me about Jesus. But then as I read more and more, it started to click kind of. The Bible talks about God being a Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the Bible claims to be the written word of God. And I knew none of that stuff at the time. But without my permission, the Holy Spirit used his word to convict me of my need of a Savior, because I was a sinner, to convict me of the reality of Jesus Christ. But there was no repeat after me prayer. There was no chaplain there. There was just a desperately lost person, that'd be me, and an incredibly loving God. And I happen to remember the date because I was 26 years old. I don't believe a Christian needs to remember the date of their salvation. I think for a Christian, they need to understand that their testimony needs to be current events, not history. But at any rate, January 30th, 1974, I committed my life to Christ. I believed in Jesus. I trusted Jesus, and I still do. And at that point, to the best of my knowledge, 14,000 angels did not come in my cell and do a square dance. Maybe they did. I didn't see them. I didn't break out in tears. I didn't break out in another language. I didn't have any outward emotion. But in my case, from that day to this, I knew that Jesus is real, and I still know that. And I know that I deserve to be in hell, but I know by God's amazing grace that saved a wretch like me. I know that I'm his child now, and that in eternity I'll be with him in a new heaven and a new earth. Looking forward to that. And between now and then, I want my life to count for him. Sorry, I'm a preacher.
No, you're basking me in positivity, and I love it. Not enough of that going on around here these days, even from some Christians who have been on the program. So I'm so glad to have you here tonight. Thank you. Did you go out and speak to kids at schools? Did you still do that, or where do you go, and how do you spread
I
the
don't.
word?
I got older, seasoned is what I call it.
Yeah.
And my focus of the ministry kind of changed over the years. I didn't want to be on the road all the time. The school assembly thing was about 7 years. And as a result of that, I did baccalaureates and school graduations and a few colleges, etc. Haven't been in a school for, 5, 6 years. I would if I got invited, but I'm not going to go knocking on the door to open the door. And I think most schools might still allow it. But the focus of my ministry changed. And it changed again a couple of years ago when I was diagnosed with a blood cancer. And that has limited me somewhat. I'm older than dirt anyway. And the side effect that I deal with is fatigue. And even when I was in my early 70s, people would frequently comment about how energy I was. Ain't so much anymore. And taking a nap is a wonderful thing until you have to take a nap. And, the chemo pill that I take every day makes me groggy, a little foggy. And, trying to balance some of this stuff is this just because I'm 78 years old? Or is it because of the chemo? Or is it a combination of the two? And so therefore, I don't preach as often as I used to. Since 1979, I'd spend 6 or 7, 8 weeks each summer speaking at youth camps and a few family camps. And I love doing that. We figured out that I spent over 4 years of my life as a camp speaker, a great privilege. My second favorite place to preach. My first favorite place is prison, by the way. And the preaching part is relatively easy. I mean, there's spiritual warfare and other things that go on, but hanging with the kids is where ministry happens. And because of my lack of energy, I can't do that to the degree that they deserve, in my opinion. So I don't do camps much anymore, at least as a speaker. I'm at camps 5 or 6 weeks as sort of a roving chaplain type thing, trying to encourage the speaker, trying to encourage others. But there's a season to life, and I really miss it. But at the same point, God keeps opening other doors. For instance, being a guest on Maverick News.
Well, I want to pivot back again a little bit here to what's going on in Iran, because the president will be on live in about an hour, or a little over an hour, and we'll be picking that up, and he'll be discussing or talking about Iran, I guess. But also today, I've been hearing that the president might pull the United States out of NATO. And of course, after World War II, NATO established, always, it's been this strong alliance, in my view. It has provided stability and peace in some ways. Since World War II, I'm alarmed when I see the fractures developing in the NATO alliance. When I see President Trump, he's sort of attacking the friends of the United States with tariff wars and bombastic rhetoric that, up here, honestly, in Canada, it scares a lot of us. I'm concerned about it. And when I hear this talk again today, fresh, where he's saying that he might just pull the United States out of NATO, I worry about it. What, as you worked your way through it and did your service, how did you view NATO, and has your view on NATO evolved? Do you have any thoughts on where America sits with that, or just personal thoughts on NATO? Was it worthwhile? Did you think that it was a scam or something when you were in the military? I don't know.
Probably when I was active duty, I probably knew there was a NATO, but it didn't really affect me. I didn't really think about it. Yeah. When I was stationed in Germany, I was there a short period of time and didn't think too much about it, and haven't thought about it for a long time until, as you mentioned, the rhetoric about we're going to pull out of NATO because Britain didn't come help us. To me, that seems to be the causal agent of Trump's anger at NATO. I haven't really thought about it thoroughly. I don't know that much about it. I don't know much about it at all. What commitment it's supposed to mean, and it certainly hasn't done a whole lot of good for Ukraine. And I just that political stuff.
Well, Ukraine's not in NATO though. That's
right,
the issue,
but
right?
But there was talk of them joining NATO, and and Ukraine's one of those things. I don't know what we, the United States, should have done, could have done, would have done. Shoulda, coulda, woulda doesn't mean anything. Ukraine's what, 3 years now?
4.
And I think Russia is starting to feel a little bit like many of us felt in Vietnam and maybe Afghanistan and Iran. I think somebody in Russia's got to be thinking, this is dumb. We keep losing people for what should have been just roll over the border and take over the country. But Ukraine said, we aren't letting you do that. And, what would happen if, for some reason, Russia wanted to go into Belgium or Germany, as far as that goes? What would we do? And I don't know. And I don't know. I'm not literate enough about NATO to know if you're a member of NATO, are you mandated to come to the defense of another NATO country?
If they're attacked, yes, Article 5.
Really?
If the United, and that's actually Article 5 only invoked one time, 9/11.
Really?
And yes, and then NATO countries came to the aid of the United States after 9/11, and it's the only time it has been used. And yet Donald Trump is saying, you guys don't do anything for us, and so we're going to pull out of NATO. I worry about that, especially as a Canadian. A NATO country sitting right on the U.S. border, the greatest of allies is, in my entire lifetime. It wasn't long ago when I was a kid, you could drive back and forth across the border, just show your driver's license. It's a lot different today. Times changing so fast, so rapidly, and I really worry about it. And then when I look at what's going on right now in Iran, I see echoes of the past. I see, potentially similar mistakes being made. And I, this is just my personal view. I think that what has happened there with Donald Trump and this strategy of bombing Iran for a second time, really, and launching this war, regardless of what happens, even if he brings that war to an end tonight, I don't think it's really going to come to an end, because now you have an even more entrenched government and in Iran, and you have some very, 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 very angry and upset people in Iran who will not forget what has happened, and it's damaging to the reputation, the image of the United States, and it's likely to come back and bite us all, including us up here in Canada too. Even though we haven't been directly involved in the conflict at all, these things, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, if you understand what I mean.
Right.
And so in the long term, certainly since '79 and the Iran hostage crisis, we've had just ongoing problems with terrorism and instability in the Middle East and concerns about terrorism on the home front. And I think that will all be amplified over time if this isn't resolved in some, more thorough way. But I'm getting the impression tonight that Donald Trump may just turn around and leave right now, because he doesn't want to damage himself too much politically. That's the sense that I'm getting as I analyze everything. It looks like he's just going to pull up and leave the Straits of Hormuz closed. And he's saying that as he's saying he's going to pull out of NATO, he's saying it's up to France and the European countries to deal with it now. You guys rely on the Strait more than we do. We've got all the oil. We don't care. We have lots of oil over here. He said yesterday on Truth Social, go get your own oil. And you go in there and you take it, he said. I thought, go in and just take it. They were buying it before. Now you're telling them to go take. See, he's pushed everybody into a corner where nobody wanted to be involved in the war, but now because of his actions, everybody's sort of being forced into the war, whether we want to be or not. And today, Keir Starmer in Britain speech, and he's saying that they won't be dragged into the war, but if you really listen to the speech, he's also a realist and knows that the Straits of Hormuz still closed. So they have to get those things open because the world economy depends on it. And if the United States now just leaves after creating this mess because of whatever was in Donald Trump's head, somebody will have to do something to get the oil flowing again in order to keep the world economy going. This is a disaster. So even though the Prime Minister of Britain is saying, no, we're not going to be dragged into the war, in the next breath he says, but we're going to act in our own national interests and we'll do whatever we have to do. Like they're going to war. We're not going to war, not that war, but we'll go to war later after they launch a missile at us or something. So I don't know. I think it's awful where we've been left.
It'll be interesting to hear what he has to say. And
yeah,
I hope whatever he says, whether I agree with it or not, I hope it's clear. I hope it has a calendar. And I hope he does it with grace instead of, no matter what I say, I'm going to get in trouble. With grace instead of the bombastic shooting from the hip guy that he too often is.
Yes.
I admit that I voted for him twice, holding my nose both times, by the way. I think he did some good stuff. I think he's been responsible for a lot of bad stuff. I think he doesn't get the best advice or the best advisors. And for people that are yelling at me right now that are share my faith in Christ, quit yelling at me and just pray for me and pray for the president.
Yes, and the people around him too, because I think that there's a lot of weird stuff going on in that administration when I look around, and I think people are afraid of Donald Trump. I think that's what bothers me the most at this point. I've said many positive things about him as well, but since coming back into the White House, I've seen so much negative energy there, and so much use of coercion and force and threats that I think that just people are afraid of him. And you can't rule through fear for very long. Eventually, that just crumbles and falls away because then you don't really have any friends. So,
yeah, I think, going back to the Iran thing, I have seen reports that North Korea is sending all kinds of stuff to Iran. Whether that's true or not, I think North Korea is the most dangerous country right now. And, the whole nuclear thing, we got them, China's got them, India's got them, Iran's got them, I think Pakistan has them, and of course North Korea has them. And I don't want to see a nuclear war. I don't want to see a limited nuclear war. I don't want to see any nuclear stuff anywhere. But I don't know how much that truly factored into the attack on Iran to get their nuclear capabilities smushed, which I'm not even sure they are smushed at this point. But it can be a scary time, and should be at least a time that we need to be aware. Again, as a person of faith, fear is something I'm not really familiar with, because I know God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. He's in charge. And I also know that the limited knowledge I have of eschatology, how's it all going to end, I don't see America playing any part in end times. And again, that's probably goes back to it's not a Christian nation, never has been, but it's a nation that is self-destructing in many ways and has for scores of years, if not hundreds of years. And yeah, we are powerful. Our economy is still better than many places, amazingly enough. And we got more missiles than you got, so don't mess with us. I don't know. I obviously don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what he's going to say. I think, as you have said, that it's, or at least implied, it's going to be a very, very pivotal speech. And I hope people are listening with their minds as well as their ears.
Yes. In many ways, I think the strengths of the United States are also its biggest vulnerabilities. You look at the size of the military, but then you look at the cost. And in Iran, they've used up, I understand, as much as 20% of the Tomahawk missile stockpile. And each one of those missiles worth over $2 million. And they're a precision weapon. I don't know what strategy they think they're employing over there, but that's not sustainable. And it takes a long time to replenish those. And yet, on the Iranian side, they're just, launching waves of drones, right? So they're, as I'm sure you can attest to from your experiences in the military, you don't go toe to toe with a superpower with just conventional warfare. Is that a lesson maybe we should have learned even back in Vietnam?
Probably back in Korea, probably the end of World War II. But the Vietnam, especially, these people were not fighting from religious reasons. They just wanted peace, and the North Vietnamese were not the good guys, and the South Vietnamese were not the bad guys or the good guys. The Vietnamese people just wanted peace, and it seems to have done them a whole lot of good now that Vietnam is a relatively thriving economy. But to get involved in a war in that type of thing was bad enough. But in Iran and Iraq and Afghanistan, you're facing religious zealots that believe they are on God's side and believe that God has mandated that they conquer the world. That's awfully tough to fight.
Yeah, especially when they view their adversary as Satan. And very, very motivated. I think that's something that the president may have not fully appreciated when this all started.
I'm a bit surprised there hasn't been more activity within the United States. Surprised there hasn't been a terrorist attack of any substance. Wondering how many sleeper cells there may in fact be scattered around the country and probably in Canada, and who decides to activate them. Are they self-governing, or do they have to wait for the Ayatollah to say something? I don't know, but I am pleasantly surprised there hasn't been more terrorist activity since we started the Iran mess.
I've had thoughts about that too. And for me, it's a definite threat, but working as a media person, I'm also acutely aware of the propaganda that's out there. And I think all through time, governments have used scare tactics, fear-mongering, to help justify their actions militarily and whatever conflict they might be promoting at the time. And certainly here I see a lot. I see some of that kind of rhetoric at play. And it was just almost about a week ago now that J.D. Vance came out and made his comments about, his concerns about Iran having a nuclear bomb vest. And I heard that, and I thought, what the hell is he talking about? What are you talking about? There's no such thing. The technology does not exist. Even the United States has not developed a nuclear device that would be small enough to deploy that way. At best, it would be in a large backpack. It would weigh about 70, 80, maybe 100 pounds. And it would be almost impossible to conceal it. It was a ridiculous statement. It's been called out by many media outlets since then. For me, that was just clear, pure propaganda designed to scare people in order to build support for whatever actions they have been taking in the Middle East. So with regard to the terror cells, yes, absolutely a definite threat, but also that's a useful tool for the propagandist who can then use that to scare the hell out of people in order to build support, right? Did you see, I mean, I think you had you worked you had positions where you were involved in military intelligence. So you kind of got to see behind the curtain in ways that the average person never does. Do you have any insight into that and the way that kind of tactic is used to mold public opinion?
Not really. And of course, military intelligence is the ultimate oxymoron. But at any rate, the particular MOS, the military specialty that I had, that if I tell you about it, I have to kill you. But it was more immediate. It wasn't dealing with propaganda or other types of mind molding, for lack of a better word.
Right, because you were sort of like gathering intelligence for tactical reasons. You weren't involved in like psyops and things of that nature.
Not directly,
or were you?
No. Notice how my lips aren't moving? Yeah, it's, I was talking to one of my sons just a couple of days ago, when are you going to be able to tell us what you did? And I said, never. Two reasons. One, I don't want to remember it. Two, when I was honorably discharged, I signed something saying I wouldn't. And that's a binding thing to me. Not because what we did was nefarious or underhanded, but we did stuff that could be wildly misinterpreted, I guess. And but as far as the propaganda or the other things, the propaganda was every day with as you mentioned earlier, the body count.
Yep.
I hate numbers for that reason. A lot of times, even in ministry, how many people came to Christ at your meeting, Jack? I don't know, but it seems like you have to come up with some kind of a number. And Vietnam spoiled me for numbers because, as the body count seemed to be the bottom line. And a lot of times the body count reported from the field was not the body count that was given to the media. Some of the movies like Apocalypse Now, which is a ridiculous movie, but some of the stuff in it regarding inflated numbers is accurate. And I think, 58,000 Americans whose names are on a wall is more than enough. But at the same time, how many millions of Vietnamese, Cambodians, Laotians, Thais died because of our involvement in Vietnam? And I don't know the answer to that. And I, again, am not sure. I don't know whether we should have got in or should have not got in. You can probably feel what I basically think. But at the same time, whether it's there, Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, if you go in, let the people do their job. And I don't guess we do too good at that.
Yeah, that's why I say too, if you're going to do something, don't just do it right. And that also means building coalitions if you need to, and making sure that you have, that you're following international law and that you have real sound reasons for doing what you're doing. If you're going to put lives at risk and ask people to put it all on the line, I hope that it's for the right reasons and that you do it right and you support them and you follow through and you get to a better place, not just do it because you've got midterms coming up or you're trying to hide something Epstein files or whatever the motivation might be. And I'm not saying it is for that or it isn't, but whatever it is, I hope it's for the right reasons. And I'm not so sure when I see the president telling allies who may soon be former allies, just go in and take your own oil. We took ours, you go take yours now. Turning everybody into thieves. I don't get it, right? I don't understand the rhetoric, but I understand the fear. How did you ultimately reconcile all of this? Because you say you hated your country, but you don't anymore. So is it just through forgiveness, or did you come to some revelation that overall the United States is actually a good force in the world? Or like, how do you go from that to that?
I think it evolves. I think the hatred that I felt was directly because of Vietnam. Coming out of that and the few years that I had in criminal activity and then getting busted and then in prison, etc., I recognized that had I been incarcerated in probably just about any other country in the world, it would have been a whole different ballgame. And understanding that America did have a constitution, whether it's applied correctly all the time is another story, but there was a basic underlying, I guess, goodness to it. And the racial junk and the inequalities and other stuff is part of fallen human nature, whether you're American or Canadian or Cambodian. But I think America has done a lot of good. I think freedom of religion is a good thing. I also think America has done a lot of bad, both internally and externally. But it beats the alternatives from my perspective. It's not, I'm not anti-patriotic. I think I was reasonably patriotic. But it's not my country right or wrong. It's my country right or wrong. If it's right, keep it right. If it's wrong, make it right. And I'm just not sure how to do that. And I think it's a sort of sense of powerlessness, except that I know that I can pray for my leaders. I can pray for the government. I can pray for peace. And as a follower of Christ, that's the most I can do. Too often the least thing we can do is pray about it. But that's the most we can do is pray about it. And I think we need to be praying about it. And I think I try to evaluate my own life. How much time do I spend griping about something rather than praying about something?
I'll tell you what, I've joined the old guys club too. I'm getting there anyway. So why don't we take a short break so the old guys can take a little break here, and then we'll come back, and I'd like to, we've talked about your book before, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about that to maybe help people find their way over to that, and we can continue the conversation on the other side. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
All right, we'll be right back, folks, right after this with Jack Hager.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity, the Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. Custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea, an exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
All right, we are back. And we are going to talk about Jack Hager's book, which I will bring up on the screen here. I believe it is available through Amazon, correct?
That is correct.
Yes, so here we go. I'll put it up on the screen. It's been a while since I read it. Captured by Grace. And why don't you just let people know a little bit about the book, Jack, and why you wrote it.
Okay, since I got out of prison, basically, people have been telling me to write a book. In the early years, I didn't want to write a book because I knew in order for it to be published, I'd have to spend 12 chapters on my bad life and maybe one chapter on my good life, and I didn't want to do that. And even when it came around to self-publishing, I don't really want to do that. There's so many stories similar to mine that what good would mine do? And then I talk about it in the book a little bit, but there was a time when I was driving through our town, St. Joseph, Missouri, and I saw a sign, estate sale. And I turned to go to the estate sale, and then I saw a little sign that said military sale. So I went to the military sale. I got out of my vehicle and walked up, and there was a gentleman seated at a table with 4 or 5 people around him. And right as I got there, he said, I just finished my 100th book. That got my attention. And it turns out this guy, his name is Milt Tirati. He was a retired lieutenant colonel. When he was a sophomore in high school, I think he wrote his first book by interviewing a Civil War guy at a local nursing home. And he's written, I think he's up to 180 books now. And what he does, he focuses on military people primarily. He interviews them, he helps them write a book, etc. And he asked, we were talking about it, and he said, why don't we write a book about you? And I said, okay, why not? And so the purpose of the book, from my perspective, is just to give a flyover. It's an easy read, I think. It's not long at all. And people may remember earlier I mentioned my first step to faith was reading a book, not the Bible, but reading a book in a jail cell. And my hope was and is that copies of this book would end up in jails, prisons, halfway houses, all over the country and Canada, that God might use the book to help introduce somebody to Jesus Christ. In and of itself, I think it's kind of interesting. Milt was a phenomenal interviewer. He pulled stuff out of me that I had totally forgotten. And he's fighting his own health battles now, but he's an amazing guy. He's written some tremendous books that I recommend people look into. He doesn't have many of them published. I kept ragging on him to publish them somehow, and he's got some of them. But his latest one, I think, was a Vietnamese girl who was captured at the age of 10 or 11, and in captivity she gave birth to 2 children. Then she escaped when she was pregnant with the 3rd child. Just a phenomenal story. He's interviewed many Medal of Honor winners, and I really recommend you look into him as you can. I'd love for him to be a guest on your show. I just don't know what his health condition is nowadays. But that's the reason I wrote it, and I'd love for people to get a copy, or better yet,
Yeah.
get 2 copies, one for yourself and one for a local jail.
Right. And let's just walk through the book a little bit, and it tells basically your story, right?
It does. Again, this doesn't mean much to many people of a certain age, but it's a Reader's Digest condensed book. It's in fact, I have had people, well, you ought to write another one and go into more detail about this or more detail about that. And I tossed that idea around a little while, but I'm still trying to figure out if I should write a book or just put more of it in a blog or do, do something like that. And I'm still baffled on what I should do. But the book is just probably a lot of what you and I talked about earlier at the beginning. It's not a deep theological tome. It's just a life seen from 30,000 feet instead of 3 feet. And anybody that wants more detail is I'm more than open to you contacting me and asking me questions. And within the parameters of what I can and can't talk about, I'd love to answer any questions that people have. And it's real simple. jack.hager@gmail is the best way.
Okay. And why did you fall into this life of crime?
I started stealing when I think I was 11 years old. My brother, who was 11 years older than I was, he was in the military. He was home on leave. He got drunk, passed out on the couch. I picked up his wallet, and as I remembered, he had like $200 in it. And if I knew if I took all the money, I'd get caught. So I just took $80. And that was the first actual theft that I remember. And then I started stealing from other people. And then when I was 14, I guess, I started ripping off liquor stores, junk like that. And the reason I did it, it was easy, it was fun, there was a buzz to it, there was a rush to it. Got popped a couple times when I was a kid, and they basically slapped me on the wrist and said, if you ever do this again, which is one of the many reasons why I'm against juvenile justice, if you're old enough to do the crime, you should be old enough to do the time. And I kind of wondered what my life would look like had they put me in a juvie jail for a year or something back then, but they didn't. And then when I went in the military, I was pretty straight during the military. I did drugs. I didn't sell drugs. When I got out of the military, I met a stewardess. She introduced me to some guys she worked for on the side. It wasn't a big criminal organization. It was like the UN. There were blacks and whites and a couple of Vietnamese and some Mexicans working with us, primarily focusing on drugs and primarily marijuana, and making a whole lot of money back in those days. And people, did you have a guilty conscience about what you did? Nope. My philosophy was do unto others before they do unto you. I didn't care. And at that point in my life, there was a rock song going around at the time, don't want to live and don't want to die. And that's pretty much the way I was. I had the front. I played like everything was cool, but 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, laying in bed somewhere, looking into the darkness, thinking, is this it? Is this all there is to life? I have never been tempted to end my life, but I can understand how tempting it can be, the way life is now for a lot of people. But I did it because there was money in it, because there was a rush. Bottom line, because it was fun. In fact, to my Christian friends, I've heard Christian testimonies where the guys talk about, I was lost and miserable in my sin. Maybe they were. I loved it. I loved partying. I loved money. I loved getting high. I loved all the stuff. And anybody who says they didn't would probably lie about other things too. But then after coming to faith, after being born again, after being converted, I really regret the things I did in my past life, but I don't live there. Because if any man be in Christ, he's a new creation. The old things have passed away. All things become new. And that may sound simplistic, but it's accurate. So I don't dwell in the past. I don't talk about it much. I don't go into detail about it, to include Vietnam. In my experience, if you're around a combat veteran who talks about it a lot, look at their nose, it's probably going to grow. We might talk about it amongst ourselves, but we're not going to talk about it with somebody who hasn't been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Sort of kind of like prison. Unless you've been in prison, unless you've been in combat, doesn't matter how many books you read, how many videos you watch, how many people you talk to, unless you've been there, you have no clue what it's really like. And, you know, prison is as close to hell as I will ever get. I have told people that if I was given the choice of going back to a maximum security prison as an inmate or going back to combat, I'd go back to combat in a heartbeat. Because at least in Vietnam, you had some idea who the bad guy was. You had some clue what might happen day to day. In a maximum security prison, you have no clue. And somebody could kill you because you're white. Somebody could kill you because they knew you on the street and they didn't like you. Somebody could kill you because they just felt like killing somebody. And I am very grateful that by the time I got to prison, I was 26 and I had served in Vietnam. So I kept my back to the wall, kept my mouth shut, didn't go looking for trouble. Prison is not a fun thing. I can understand anybody going to prison once. It baffles me that people do life on the installment plan. You know, do 2 years here, get out, go back and do a nickel here, get out. And it just, yeah, I have thought a little bit, excuse me, had I not become a Christian, when I got out, would I have gone back? I probably would have gone back to using drugs. I don't think I would have gone back to selling, simply because I didn't like doing time. It was not worth it to me.
Was there ever a time when you felt guilt for doing what you did?
While I was doing it, no. To the best of my memory, to the best of my recollection, I never had any remorse. I never had any, I don't think I had bad feelings about it. It was just, from the time that I was 14 on, it was all about me. And I didn't care. Yeah, I just wasn't a nice guy. And I know now that you see this face, and but I was not a nice person. And but I was just barely smart enough that I didn't flash my money, didn't flash my weapon, didn't, you know, when I was transporting, I drove a beat-to-death station wagon with America Love It or Leave It bumper stickers on it. In fact, a story I tell that is, it's true. I was in Texas and I was by myself going back to the West Coast. The blinking lights went on behind me. I pulled over. A cop came up and he said, "What are you in such a hurry about?" I said, "Well, I got to get these M16s back." The guy laughed about it. They're in the back of the car covered by a blanket. And I knew I was busted. I knew I was fried. And the cop just laughed about it. If he's listening to this, I'm sorry, buddy, but you know, I wasn't looking to get busted. I wasn't anxious to get busted. But when I did get popped, when I did get arrested, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't really regretful because this was something new. This was going to, I'd done jail time. I'd never done prison time. I knew it was going to be something new. I was sort of kind of excited about it because I had, you know, as I said, I felt I had done everything twice, and it was an empty thing. And I think I don't think that's a remarkable insight on my part, except for the fact that I'm honest about it.
I can only say, wow. Like, I guess I wouldn't have it in me. I feel too much guilt for even doing little things like not emptying the dishwasher when I'm told to. So,
you know, that's interesting, and I'm not sure I've thought about it in that perspective, but and I don't put any blame on my parents. You know, they contributed, Vietnam contributed, but I made my choices. The power of personal responsibility, personal choice. You make your choices, then your choices make you. And you know, my parents, my dad was gone frequently on isolated tours. They both were alcoholics, functioning alcoholics. My mother was a medicine chest junkie, popping pills all the time. I remember being yelled at a few times. I don't remember being disciplined. Before I moved out on my own, my dad was in Korea. I was living with my mom, and it was just, I don't remember being disciplined. I don't remember being told I was loved as far as that goes. I'm envious of people that have happy childhood memories, but maybe that contributed to my lack of empathy for anybody, my lack of, I just didn't care. If I hurt you, too bad, and if I never killed anybody except in Vietnam to the best of my knowledge. I do have to live with the fact how many people that I turned on to drugs ended up dead, but there's regret in that. But at the time, there was no regret at all. I had more money than I could count, had all kinds of stuff, and just didn't care.
So it was mostly marijuana that you were involved with?
Marijuana, weapons, a little bit of people, but it was, every now and then I think I ought to have a class action lawsuit that what I did, mostly the crimes I was convicted of, dealt with marijuana, and here it is legal. So I think I should get what is the word? Reparations. I think I should. Not really, of course. I don't think anybody should get reparations, but that's another story. But it was
sometimes weapons as well. You mentioned M16s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How would that work? Like, what do the arms companies furnish these things to criminals or do they get stolen and then sold, or how did all that work?
From our perspective, it worked. We bought from other crooks who, for the most part, stole them from the military, from National Guard armories, etc. And M16s, there was, I think probably less than 200 weapons that we sold over the years. And it was kind of a sidelight. Somebody would say, hey, why don't you go down to Texas and pick up these weapons? Why not? But the main deal was marijuana, and made a lot of money and had a lot of fun short term.
Yeah.
But the problem with short term fun is you have to keep jumping into something else, or smoking another joint, or doing something else stupid.
Which brings me back around to the Trump administration and this war on the drug cartels in especially Mexico, and we saw what happened in Venezuela as well. But as I have seen what's been going on in Mexico, and you're not hearing as much about it now, but I know that those efforts are still ongoing. And to some degree, Scheinbaum has been successful in sort of keeping the U.S. military, pushed back at arm's length, so that the Mexican authorities or military is engaging with these cartels. But I'm just interested in your thoughts, because as I've seen the tourism industry upended, confidence in people going to Mexico, concerns like that whole industry right now is devastated because nobody wants to go there now. We've seen violence in the streets, and through all of that, I've said, okay, fine and dandy, but is it really going to end the drug trade? Is this really going to solve anything? Because as one cartel is maybe decapitated or, damaged in some way, it creates a vacuum. And as long as there's demand and some sort of a network maybe still there and supply on the other side that can be delivered, it seems to me it's just creating a vacuum where one drug cartel will suffer because of this attack, and another one will come in and just serve the market. Am I far off base, or
I don't think
do you think
so.
this is really going to fix it?
I mean, I am glad that we didn't have, the cartels may have existed to some point, but we never had any encounters with any bad guys who were going to come against us. And again, we did our thing and there were places we knew we couldn't deal, places we knew we shouldn't get involved. And a defensive battle, if you will. We were making enough money, we didn't have to interfere with the black organizations or the Vietnamese organizations or the Mexican organizations, which to the best of my knowledge back then, we're not the vicious beasts that the cartels are. And how corrupt is the Mexican government, how corrupt on various levels, I don't know, but there's so much money in it. How do you fight? And I agree with you that as long as there's a demand, as long as there's a customer, there's going to be a supplier, one way or the other. And as long as there's poverty and the opportunity, if somebody comes to me and says, I'll give you, if I'm a Mexican peasant, and I'm not being racial, I'm just picking, and somebody comes up to me and says, they're going to give me $1,000 a week to do something, I'm probably going to do it. And I don't think it's a solvable problem. You can downsize, so to speak, but as you said, it's going to come back, and hopefully there won't be any development of better, I hate to use the word better drugs, because the stuff that's around now, even the marijuana, even before it was decriminalized, the marijuana was a whole lot stronger than the stuff that we dealt with. And, now you got fentanyl and all that other junk. It's just crazy. And, as self-serving as it sounds, I'm glad I did my stupid stuff in the 70s instead of nowadays.
Yeah.
Just because how deadly the drugs are in and of themselves.
Yeah. How dangerous was, you say that they weren't as savage or whatever adjective you used, but there must have been some level of danger involved. You had a weapon and...
Yeah, there was a possibility. It never happened to me. It happened to a couple of the other guys that got ambushed somewhere, but it wasn't, I don't think it was an organized thing. It was just somebody that was able to find out they were taking X amount of drugs to San Francisco, and on the way they intercepted it and got it. Our main fear, if you will, were the legal people, the cops. In fact, that's who ended up getting us. When I got arrested, I later found out they had a snitch working with us. They had some of our phones tapped. Oregon, California, a joint interagency narcotics squad, and the federales were involved at some point. And they built a case, and the same night they arrested me, they arrested a bunch of the other guys in different states and effectively decapitated us, and that organization went bye-bye. But when you've got so much money that can be made, and with that money, you can often buy protection from the legal authorities as well as others. I don't think it can ever be fully squashed. I don't think it can ever be. I wish it could, and hopefully I'm wrong, but I don't know how you could, because there's always going to be demand. There's always going to be customers, and where there's customers, there's suppliers, whether they're Americans or Cambodians or Mexicans or Venezuelans. You might be able to slow down the amount of drugs that are entering our country, but I don't think you can stop it.
Reminds me, it just brings to mind, the war on drugs and just say no, and the messages from the presidents and Nancy Reagan and and Mr. T, just say no, and I don't think it made much difference. It just goes on and on because it's addictive, and it's part of the culture, and it's glorified in our society through rock musicians and drug use and movies. And so on the one hand, you've got, the Just Say No campaigns or the war on the cartels, and then somehow, and I've never understood this, Jack, but you see rock musicians or just celebrities who end up dying young because of drug overdoses, and somehow that is glorified, or I don't know if that's the right word, but people put those folks on a pedestal, and Yeah, I don't know. What's wrong with our society when we have these such strong contradictions that lead to such destructive outcomes?
Well, of course, I can't overlook sin, that fallen man does fallen stuff. But I think we all suffer a real disease. It ain't going to happen to me, whatever it is. You know, the driver's ed films you see in high school with intestines wrapped around telephone poles that's supposed to make you a safer driver. It's not going to happen to me. The girl that sleeps with the boyfriend, it's not going to happen to me. The guy that sells drugs, it's not. I'm slicker than snot on glass. I'm not going to get caught. We all have that disease. I think that I'm going to get away with it. And then when we do get caught, if we get caught, then comes a pivotal point in my life where, let me just say this. I think the worst thing about the prison system in America is that broad brush, they program you to fail. What I mean by that is when I checked in to prison, not because I was Jack Hager, but because I was 36403, part of the intake process is being interviewed by a psychologist, a psychiatrist, some grad students from Oregon State, a chaplain, a bunch of other people taking the basic intelligence tests, the square peg round hole test, the ink blot test, what do you see? And then at the end of that time, going in front of the board, and the board told me, Mr. Hager, the reason why you're a dealer and a thief is because of the bad attitude you have toward the United States because of your tour duty in Vietnam. What have they just told me? It's not your fault, Jackie Poo. Vietnam did it to you. Vietnam contributed, sure. My family contributed. Rock music contributed. But I made the choice. And here the system, well-meaning people who are operating from the viewpoint that man is basically good, therefore if man goes bad, have to find out why. And instead of saying, hey, Jack, you blew it, man, you made the wrong choice. Unless and until I take, with or without faith, unless and until I take personal responsibility for my life, I can't turn it around. Whether it's alcohol or drugs or any other addiction or situation, if I just walk around, well, Vietnam made me I'm black, it made me my parents got divorced, it made me no, it contributed, but you made you a you. As I said before, 1 Jack 1:8, you make your choices, then your choices make you. But it works both ways. I can choose the wrong path. I can choose to get off the wrong path and go on the right path, which of course in my faith ultimately is Jesus Christ. But when I talk to guys in the joint, when I correspond with them, I tell them you can make it if you want to. And when I'm in prison, when I used to go in prison, I don't go anymore because my compromised immune system. But I tell the guys, hey, if you're here for the first time, let's talk. If you're here for the second time, I got nothing to tell you because you like it here. And they go, blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, you know, any fool can make it on the street if they want to. And obviously it's tougher for some. When they tell a guy you can't hang around with while you're on parole, you can't hang around with ex-convicts. Well, that negates my mom, my uncle, my brother. You know, it's tougher for some than others. But it's not the parole officer's fault. It's not the system's fault. If you want to make it, you can make it. And I'll die on that mountain.
Interesting. You were angry with your country, and so they gave you that kind of an excuse or an out without, making you look in the mirror and take accountability for your own actions. And when I look back over, say, the past 5 years or so, after the pandemic, I've seen so many people, I hadn't really thought of it in these terms, but so many people angry with their government. It's like up here in Canada, right? Hating the government, hating this, hating that. And I don't have any faith. And so there's all this outpouring of negativity. They want to, even some people even want to tear the government down. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. Like a lot of mistakes made. But I think that you're kind of onto something there again, Jack, that maybe can help people here even tonight, because as your government made decisions and put you into a situation that was horrific in Vietnam. It doesn't get much worse. And other wars as well. Maybe even in Iran now. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, as angry as you were with your government, you came to terms with everything because it's about you. It's about me. It's about what we do, what we choose. We have free will. And it doesn't matter what the government does. Look, it matters, but it's how you respond to that that matters. You're going to respond in a positive way, in a constructive way, or in a destructive way. You're going to take responsibility for your own actions and try to help people, do positive things. Help me out here. I because so many people right now around me even, they're just, I got locked down. I was forced to take the jab, or somebody else did, or whatever, however they've seen these things since the pandemic. It's left a lot of people, I think, vulnerable to negative suggestions, negative reinforcement, for a variety of reasons, some of which is, just psychological warfare, political organizations, or even foreign governments. I mean, I don't know. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to personal choice and what you choose to do with your life, right?
Absolutely. It ain't my fault is an obscenity, whatever it is, it ain't my fault. Yeah, it is. And again, you can turn it around. It won't be easy necessarily, but you can turn it around if you man up or woman up and take responsibility for your life. And that takes work, it takes effort, it takes sacrifice, but you need to do it. You're much too important not to do it. Don't just become part of the herd or part of the masses that are either supporting or rebelling, whatever. I think of the protests that we see so often. I don't know if they're being paid. I don't know what the deal is, but I do know, I'm pretty sure that if I went down there and tapped somebody on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, what are you protesting?" "I don't know. I'm just here, man. This is fun." Okay. But there was, what's that? Oh, the Eagles, those great Eagles. They have a relatively unknown song from back in the day, "Get Over It." I recommend anybody YouTube it, "Get Over It." It was the flip side of Hotel California, I think. But anyway, your mom is too skinny and your daddy's too fat. Get over it. I'd like to find your inner child and kick his little, get over it. It's a great song that I wish people would listen to. Get over it. Take responsibility for your life, move ahead. Yeah. And again, I don't want to negate the fact that stuff contributes, that Vietnam contributed to my lack of caring about anything. My parents' alcoholism maybe contributed to mine. I remember reading a news magazine, Time or Newsweek, one of those years ago. The cover was "Adult Children of Alcoholics." And I thought, yeah, I'm going to read this thing. Here's another thing. It ain't my fault, my people. And in that book, in that magazine article, it had a test. I passed with flying colors, man. The fact that my parents' alcoholism probably did contribute to my road to alcoholism. I vaguely remember we lived in Germany. I was 9 months old. We went to Germany for 5 years. And I have a vague recollection of my parents giving me a little beer stein. I don't know how often, but giving me I don't think that made me an alcoholic, but it gave me an affinity, I guess, for beer. But I'm grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. Obviously, it's not focused on Christ the way I wish it would, but it helps people, and big part of it is, "Hi, I'm Jack. I'm an alcoholic." Admitting that you got an issue, taking responsibility for it, getting help, not being afraid to ask for help. And there was a guy that said in one of his books that a typical Alcoholics Anonymous meeting is more like church should be than most churches are. And I think he was onto something, that Maybe Sunday mornings we should start up by saying, I'm Jack, I'm a sinner, and my sin is no worse than yours or no better than yours, but together we're going to get through this thing. And again, I recognize that most people probably don't share my faith, but regardless of whether you're atheist, agnostic, whatever, you're a human being created in God's image. God's stamp is on you, whether you like it or not. But with or without faith, if you've been drifting, don't drift, live. And that starts with personal responsibility. I hate this job. Okay, do what you can to get another job. I hate my country. Okay, what can you do to change it? What political groups can you get involved in? What letters can you write? What prayers can you pray? What can you? It's pretty easy to yell and scream that this stinks. It's sacrificial work to try to change it, whether it's me, my neighborhood, my state, my country, my world. And obviously, you know, I try to focus on the guy I pass on the street and how can I help him, recognizing that everybody I see is going through something. And obviously, I want to share my faith with them. Equally, obviously, I hope if I can help them, I want to help them, but I don't want to enable them to continue on their nothing path or downward path or whatever it is. I'm always baffled, frustrated when I see guys, you know, the guy on the street begging for money. You know, do I give him money? Am I cynical? This is going to go to Mad Dog 2020 or some other cheap wine or something. There was a period in my life when I tried to solve that problem by buying McDonald's gift cards. And if I felt like I should give something, I'd give them. And then not too long after that, I saw some guy selling McDonald's gift cards outside of McDonald's. Hey, I'll give you this $5 for $3 and sell them. You know, so I don't know what to do for the brain damaged people that are on the streets. I think, you know, whenever it was in the 70s when they closed down psychiatric hospitals and put people on the streets, it's crazy. It's nuts that there are just people that should be confined somewhere for their own good and for my good. Yeah. But for whatever reason, back in the 70s, we said, well, let's leave them on their own. They can do their own thing. Not so much.
We've had the same thing happen here with those kinds of hospitals or institutions shut down. And now in my town, when I first moved here, never saw a homeless person on the streets. Now we have, you know, small tent cities, and they seem to be growing. And it's because of drugs. It's because of mental illness. Those are the two biggest contributing factors. And then people try to spin that for political purposes as well. But I think ultimately it comes down to those two biggest issues. And after going over and actually, I've had, you know, I speak to some of the people in these tent cities, and at the same time, it really does come down to personal responsibility, because here on this channel, we talk a lot about the concept of freedom, and freedom begins right here. It really does. Even if you're in prison, it's about an attitude, a state of mind, and about taking responsibility for your own actions and what you choose every day. Do you choose to focus on negative things, or do you choose to focus on more positive things to make things better, right? What are your thoughts on that after having been to jail and not wanting to go back? Is there truth in that even when you're in jail, you can find freedom in your own mind through attitude?
Absolutely. I can't imagine doing time without knowing how to read. But there are too many inmates. And then, of course, the system very often offers GED classes, reading classes, etc. And at that point, the guy or girl has to decide, okay, I'm going to do this, even though some of my buddies are going to say, hey, man, you're cooperating with the man. You shouldn't be going to that class. I'm going to do that. I don't want to just do time. Again, with or without faith, I don't want to just do time. I want to redeem time. I'm going to learn how to read. I'm going to get my GED. I'm going to learn how to be a mechanic or whatever, depending on the prison, what programs they offer. But you can't rehabilitate somebody who doesn't want to be rehabilitated. It has to start with them. And again, I can understand anybody going to prison once. It's only being in the wrong place at the wrong time. But going back and going back and going back. And at the same time, I have a friend who's locked up in a Missouri prison. He's doing double life. He's been locked up since 1973. He will never see the streets. He came to faith while incarcerated, and he's one of the most free guys I've ever met. Every time I would see him, he'd say, "Jack, thanks so much for coming." I'd say, "No, thanks to you. You blessed me so much and given me so much encouragement." He is such a powerful guy that the wardens would move him from one cell block to another cell block because they knew wherever he was, things would change. They maybe didn't know why, but it was primarily because of his faith and primarily because of the way he carried himself. And it didn't hurt that he was, even though he was probably 65 years old, he was still pretty buff. It didn't hurt that way, but he radiated joy and he radiated happiness, even though he's going to die in prison. Unless there's a presidential pardon or something, he was in Vietnam the same time I was. We didn't know each other. Happens to be an African American guy, but he is free indeed. And in fact, the Bible says, if the truth sets you free, you will be free indeed. Whether you're incarcerated, whether you got cancer, whether you're 8 years old or 80 years old, there's a freedom in Christ that is tangible and understandable. And yet with that freedom comes the responsibility to share that freedom. And sadly, too many Christians keep it a secret.
Can I share a personal story with you?
Please.
You just brought back a memory from elementary school. I think it was probably, this still makes me laugh, but it was very serious actually. Probably grade 4 or something like that. I was always a pretty good kid, generally speaking. And there I was, pretty sure it was grade 4. And this new student came in, this girl. And she was pretty wild. I think she had a lot of problems at home, and the teacher could not control this girl. And she, on our desks, like sometimes the kids would draw a little bit with a pencil. And she was just wild. And her whole desk, like covered in scribbles, like doodles and just stuff, like completely covered all the time, every day. And then the janitor would come in and he'd wipe her desk down and it would just be caked with graphite or lead. Probably at the time, it was probably lead back in those days, just caked. And he'd just have to wash her desk off every day. And the teacher was just beside herself, didn't know what to do. So I was always, behaved. So she took me and sat me beside that girl because she thought that I would be a positive influence on her. And she kind of told me too, like be her friend and just maybe you can help her so that she would stop doing this on her desk. So there I am at the back of the class with the misbehaving girl. And I'm like, I want to be her friend. So I didn't know how to connect with her. So we're sitting there, and when the teacher's not looking, I would take my pencil and I'd reach over and I'd scribble on her desk. And then she'd reach over and scribble on mine. And by the end of the day, my whole desk was covered in graphite and just all kinds of doodles and scribbles. And we were having the best time at the back of the classroom. And what the teacher didn't realize, that the teacher came by and she saw what had happened, and she was just livid, beside herself. I got in so much trouble, like way more trouble than the girl got into. Like I was severely disciplined. I got detentions, but the teacher didn't get it. It was like I was connecting with her and I made friends with her. So from that day on, that girl had a friend in the class. And even though she separated us because she decided that the girl was being a bad influence on me, we always would look across the class at each other and always give each other a look, like, you know, like we were friends after that. And I think actually that helped her. So it's I don't know. I hadn't thought of that in years, but you brought back that memory. And even though those detentions were worth it, Jack. And I can't remember her name, that girl, but hopefully that made a difference for her. Those are the days. Was I wrong in doing that?
Friendship is a good thing.
Yeah. Oh my God. We're about 2 minutes away from the president supposedly going live here. Let me just see. I have it up. Are we there? Are we there? Are we there? He's supposed to be on at 9. We are now to 8:59. And I'd love for you to stick around and are you able to, or do you need to jump off here at 9 o'clock, or do you want to stick around with me and
I can
react?
stick around as long as you pay me the normal hourly rate.
No, that's not a problem.
I want you to
We
pay
have
me
that
twice what you
amount.
paid me last time.
All right, let's take a break. I'll get this queued up and up on the screen, and we will bring you live the address to the nation by Donald Trump when we come back. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial, as they said back in the day.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
Brightleaf Innovations is excited to offer our newest investment opportunity. The Turn Easy Bed Storage Solution.
Turns with a touch, spins all the way around. Every little thing you need is easy to be found. No more clutter, no more mess on the floor. Just spin it, reach it, you don't search anymore. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day. It custom shelves for your books or your tech. Cozy space for your treasures to protect. Built-in power when you need to recharge. Smart design that makes your bedroom feel large. Turn Easy Bed, spin your world around. Storage made simple, the best you found. Shelves your way, keep the mess away. Charge it, store it, night or day.
Designed and developed by Brightleaf Innovations. Proudly Canadian and patent pending in North America. Turn Easy Bed transforms how you live.
To learn more about this innovative new product idea and exciting investment opportunity, call 519-784-0222 or visit brightleafinnovations.com.
astronauts on the successful launch of Artemis II. It was quite something. It will be traveling further than any manned rocket has ever flown and will very substantially pass the moon, go around it, and come back home from a distance that has never been done before. It's amazing. They are on the way, and God bless them. These are brave people. We want to God bless those 4 unbelievable astronauts. As we speak this evening, it's been just 1 month since the United States military began Operation Epic Fury, targeting the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, Iran. In these past 4 weeks, our armed forces have delivered swift, decisive, overwhelming victories on the battlefield. Victories like few people have ever seen before. Tonight, Iran's Navy is gone. Their Air Force is in ruins. Their leaders, most of them terrorist regime they led, are now dead. Their command and control of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is being decimated as we speak. Their ability to launch missiles and drones is dramatically curtailed, and their weapons, factories, and rocket launchers are being blown to pieces. Very few of them left. Never in the history of warfare has an enemy suffered such clear and devastating large-scale losses in a matter of weeks. Our enemies are losing in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before. Before discussing this current situation, I also want to thank our troops for the masterful job they did in taking the country of Venezuela in a matter of minutes. That hit was quick, lethal, violent, and respected by everyone all over the world. After rebuilding our military during my first term, we have by far the strongest military anywhere in the world. And now we're working along with Venezuela and are, in a true sense, joint venture partners. We're getting along incredibly well in the production and sale of massive amounts of oil and gas, the second largest reserves on Earth after the United States of America. We're now totally independent of the Middle East, and yet we are there to help. We don't have to be there. We don't need their oil. We don't need anything they have, but we're there to help our allies. Tonight, I want to provide an update on the tremendous progress our warriors have made in Iran and discuss why Operation Epic Fury is necessary for the safety of America and the security of the free world. From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. This fanatical regime has been chanting death to America, death to Israel for 47 years. Their proxies were behind the murder of 241 Americans in the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut, the slaughter of hundreds of our service members with roadside bombs. They were involved in the attack on the USS Cole, and they carried out the countless other heinous acts, including the just horrible, bloody atrocities of October 7th in Israel, something that most people have never seen anything like it. This murderous regime also recently killed 45,000 of their own people who were protesting in Iran. 45,000 dead. For these terrorists to have nuclear weapons would be an intolerable threat. The most violent and thuggish regime on earth would be free to carry out their campaigns of terror, coercion, conquest, and mass murder from behind a nuclear shield. I will never let that happen, and neither should any of our past presidents. This situation has been going on for 47 years and should have been handled long before I arrived in office. I did many things during my 2 terms in office to stop the quest for nuclear weapons by Iran first, and perhaps most importantly, I killed General Qasem Soleimani in my first term. He was an evil genius, brilliant person, a horrible human being, however. the father of the roadside bomb, and he lived. Just horrible what he did. Iran would have been perhaps in far better, stronger position. Had he lived, we would have had probably a different conversation tonight. But you know what? We'd still be winning and winning big. And then very importantly, I terminated Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, a disaster. Obama gave them $1.7 billion in cash, green cash, took it out of banks from Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, all the cash they had, flew it by airplanes in an attempt to buy their respect and loyalty, but it didn't work. They laughed at our president and went on with their mission to have a nuclear bomb. His Iran deal would have led to a colossal arsenal of massive nuclear weapons for Iran, and they would have had them years ago, and they would have used them. It would have been a different world. There would have been no Middle East and no Israel right now, in my opinion, the opinion of a lot of great experts, had I not terminated that terrible deal. And I was so honored to do it. I was so proud to do it. It was so bad right from the beginning. Essentially, I did what no other president was willing to do. They made mistakes, and I am correcting them. My first preference was always the path of diplomacy, yet the regime continued their relentless quest for nuclear weapons and rejected every attempt at an agreement. For this reason, in June, I ordered a strike on Iran's key nuclear facilities, an Operation Midnight Hammer. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Those beautiful B-2 bombers performed magnificently. We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible. And they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And their race for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, but in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I've traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, "Please, sir, please finish the job." Every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history. We're going through it right now, the strongest in history. In 1 year, we've taken a dead and crippled country. I hate to say that, but we were a dead and crippled country after the last administration and made it the hottest country anywhere in the world by far, with no inflation, record-setting investments coming into the United States, over $18 trillion, and the highest stock market ever, with 53 all-time record highs in just 1 year. It all positioned us to get rid of a cancer that has long simmered. It's known as the nuclear Iran, and they didn't know what was coming. They've never imagined it. Remember, because of our Drill Baby Drill program, America has plenty of gas. We have so much gas. Under my leadership, we are #1 producer of oil and gas on the planet, without even discussing the millions of barrels that we're getting from Venezuela. Because of the Trump administration's policies, we produce more oil and gas than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Think of that, Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. And that number will soon be substantially higher than that. There's no country like us anywhere in the world, and we're in great shape for the future. The United States imports almost no oil through the Hormuz Strait and won't be taking any in the future. We don't need it. We haven't needed it, and we don't need it. We've beaten and completely decimated Iran. They are decimated, both militarily and economically and in every other way. And the countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily. We will be helpful, but they should take the lead in protecting the oil that they so desperately depend on. So to those countries that can't get fuel, many of which refuse to get involved in the decapitation of Iran, we had to do it ourselves. I have a suggestion. #1, buy oil from the United States of America. We have plenty. We have so much. And #2, build up some delayed courage. Should have done it before. Should have done it with us, as we asked. Go to the Strait and just take it, protect it, use it for yourselves. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done, so it should be easy. And in any event, when this conflict is over, the Strait will open up naturally. It'll just open up naturally. They're going to want to be able to sell oil because that's all they have to try and rebuild. It will resume the flowing, and the gas prices will rapidly come back down. Stock prices will rapidly go back up. They haven't come down very much, frankly. They came down a little bit, but they've had some very good days over the last couple of days. We've done actually much better than I thought, but we had to take that little journey to Iran to get rid of this horrible threat. With our historic tax cuts, where people are just now talking about receiving larger refunds than they ever thought possible, they are getting so much more money than they thought. That's from the great big beautiful bill. Our economy is strong and improving by the day, and it will soon be roaring back like never before. It will top the levels that it was a month ago. I've made clear from the beginning of Operation Epic Fury that we will continue until our objectives are fully achieved. Thanks to the progress we've made, I can say tonight that we are on track to complete all of America's military objectives shortly, very shortly. We are going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong, In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing, the brilliance of the United States military. Tonight, every American can look forward to a day when we are finally free from the wickedness of Iranian aggression and the specter of nuclear blackmail. Because of the actions we have taken, we are on the cusp of ending Iran's sinister threat to America and the world. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. And when we do, when it's all over, the United States will be safer, stronger, more prosperous, and greater than it has ever been before. May God bless the men and women of the United States Armed Forces, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much, and good night.
Well, it looks like we lost Jack. He's been popping on and off. He might be having trouble with his internet connection. But that was the president's address to the nation tonight. First, acknowledging the launch of Artemis II, paying tribute to the 4 astronauts who are tonight on their way to the moon, and then addressing the big issue, which is the war in Iran, which tonight he is again calling just a military operation. And Jack is back. Hello, welcome back. Your internet.
I almost fell asleep listening.
Oh boy. Did you hear enough as you were popping on and off through your internet disconnections?
I don't know what it was, but I heard some of it. I thought he was going to go a lot longer and touch different things, but
yeah, with an address like that, I wasn't surprised it was what it was. Did you hear enough to make an initial comment? I have a bunch of notes that I made that I'd like to touch on.
I think you can take it away.
Okay, so there he is. He we'll just go right to the Iran stuff because we acknowledged his acknowledgement of Artemis II. First of all, he keeps making up numbers. He had to talk about the investments in the United States, $18 trillion, which by any assessment from any credible source is way off base. It's at best maybe half that, and even then, it's a number he keeps bringing up, $18 trillion in new investment. I'm just going to get it out of the way before I get into the important stuff. Even like Bloomberg, even government sources saying that those investments also include long-term projections for non-binding, not even agreements, but assertions that other countries might be buying natural gas from the United States over the long term. In any event, at best, that's, maybe half of that will actually come to the United States in terms of investments because of the tariffs. Anyway, again, that's not the main topic tonight that the president was addressing. It's Iran. And he is, of course, citing getting rid of Obama's nuclear deal, which he says was a disaster. He's talking about now Iran apparently having developed ballistic missile technology that could reach the United States from Iran. I don't know if that's true or if it isn't. I don't see any evidence of it, but he's making the claim. Maybe it's true, maybe it isn't. I'm going to dig into that maybe overnight and into tomorrow. That's the first I've heard of Iran having that level of ballistic missile technology. Then he turns and says that they're in the Middle East, not because they need the oil or even want the oil, although he has previously stated that they were going to take the oil. And now he's saying that they're there to help the allies of the United States. And when he was saying that, I was like, well, which allies are you talking about? And it's not NATO allies. It's not the traditional allies. It's he said Israel, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, a couple of others, the Middle Eastern countries, which, okay. And I know that Saudi Arabia has been trying to get the United States to kind of stay there. Interestingly, if you listen to some of the business analysts and economists talking about this stuff, Saudi Arabia is now making more money than they have ever made before. They're making something like $300 million a day more now than they were before the Straits of Hormuz were closed. And that's simply because even though they're selling less oil, they're getting a much higher price per barrel, which at my last count was, or assessment, it was up to about $116 per barrel. And if you get up above $100 a barrel, it starts to have real serious implications on the U.S. economy, on all these economies. I'll pivot over and just make reference to somebody in our chat over on our main Rumble channel, which, Jack, you can't see our main channels in the chat. But somebody said, well, how much oil does the United States, or how much oil do even North American countries actually buy from Iran? It doesn't matter, because all this oil is a commodity and it all goes into the world market and it affects the world price of oil. So whether we're buying oil directly from Iran or not, it affects the world supply. And it's not just about Iran, it's about all the oil that's going through the Straits of Hormuz, because that represents 20 to 25% of the entire world supply. That has been disrupted. That's the biggest challenge. And he's still in this speech pivoting over and saying, well, it's now up to other countries to get involved and open that strait. It's not really something that is our responsibility. But just when I thought he was going to announce that the United States was going to leave and leave the mess for somebody else to clean up, he doesn't say that. This is where I think things might just get kind of dark and dangerous, because he's saying that over the next 3 weeks or so, the United States, and I'm paraphrasing, but not far off a direct quote, they're going to bomb Iran back to the Stone Age. Well, okay, and I don't know what exactly you're hoping to achieve by doing that. other than you're just going to destroy the entire country, kill a bunch of people, maybe, probably, whether, let's just say collateral damage to be polite. What are you going to achieve by just bombing them back to the Stone Age? Then turns around and says they're going to bomb energy infrastructure, take out all their power plants, unless they come to the table and give them a deal, then says that they're actually talking and in some sort of conversation with them, not calling it full-up negotiations. I don't know what that means, except maybe they're sending, I don't know, something over a telegraph, hoping that somebody intercepts it on the other. I don't know what that means. Then, so there's actually contradictory things in this address tonight that really, for me, it raises serious concerns. They're not leaving, but they're going to stay. They're going to bomb them. They're in negotiations that are really just talks. And because he never got congressional approval for what is a war, he continues to call it, and it was very carefully placed, this phrasing, it is a military operation, not a war, so that he's sidestepping the need to get congressional approval to continue with this operation, which at last count, he was going to Congress asking for a $200 billion cash infusion in order to fund this thing, which now at 32 days in, which he acknowledged today, is probably, it was a few days ago, the cost of this was upwards of $37 billion. We know it's costing the United States right now somewhere in excess of $1 billion a day to conduct this military operation, which is a war. We shouldn't mince words because that's obviously what it is. So anything that's costing $1 billion a day in weapons and operational costs, that's a war. That's not just some sort of targeted military operation. That phrase, too, by the way, alarms me because who else uses that phrase? Who else used that terminology? Vladimir Putin for his special military operation in Ukraine. Same kind of rhetoric. It's, for me, a little bit weird coming from a president of the United States. So all of these conflicting things, yet I still see some people in the chat on our main channel saying, yeah, cheering it on because they, we're teaching those people over in Iran a lesson of some kind. Maybe, but I don't think that I don't think you can bomb people into democracy. You can't bomb people into any kind of meaningful change. I think, Jack, anytime we've seen this happen in history, we end up just getting people angry and full of anger and hate and their long-term implications from these things. I think he just doesn't have an end game, even though he says he promised that this thing was going to be over in 3 to 4 weeks. Now we're through the first month, 32 days. He's now addressing the nation, which he should have done from the very beginning, in order to explain to the American people, the taxpayers who are funding this thing, what the heck he's doing over there. This is the first time he's actually addressed the nation in this way. 32 days in. And now he's saying that it's going to continue for another 3 to 4 weeks, which is what he said when it started, not in a formal address to the nation, but through, gaggles with media. And all these contradictory, conflicting messages. This, for me, is concerning. Because I thought tonight, I was hoping he was going to announce some sort of an end to this thing. We've got a deal. We're gonna do this, or we're gonna pull back, but there's no resolution. This is just an announcement that they're just continuing. And I don't know that we're getting truth here in this fog of war, and the information warfare continues to rage. And I think some of that information warfare came straight through that speech tonight. I'll throw it to you for some thoughts.
I thought it was a whole lot of nothing. There was no substance to it, I didn't think. Again, I was trying to find, it was very broken up on your channel, so I found it on I think Fox News or something, but I agree with you. He just, there wasn't anything there, I don't think. There was nothing surprising to me. don't know how long it'll go on, but I didn't think he was going to announce a peace, because who's he going to make peace with? Are they really talking? I don't know. Is there, the I wish part of me, I wonder if there's black teams on the ground there that are trying to group together some democracy-leaning Iranians to set up a government.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It wasn't a message of hope. It wasn't a message of things are getting better, folks. It was a message of 3 more weeks anyway. And
which he characterizes as an investment in your children's future. Maybe if you took everything at face value that he said, that they've decimated Iran, but it's just to me it just smacks of a bombastic rhetoric. I don't think there's actual truth there. For me it's concerning. So much of it contradictory. And we know that they've been moving troops into position to affect some sort of, I don't think they go to those lengths unless they intend to use them. And they've been talking about maybe taking Karg Island, which is where they have the big oil refinery infrastructure, and that's where all the Iranian oil ships from, right? So they seem to have their sights set on that target. And I'll tell you this, if it was easy to open the Straits of Hormuz, they would have done it by now. It would already be cleared. To suggest that they're firmly in control, this is strategic warfare coming from the other side. And yeah, I'd have no doubt that Iran is being pummeled, but so far trying to bomb them back to the Stone Age hasn't put an end to the war. I don't get it.
It is rather baffling.
Yeah. So tonight I'll join you in praying for the troops, keep them out of harm's way, hopefully. I'm with you, Jack. I hope that they don't send troops in. I don't want to see boots on the ground, because so far I don't think it has gone according to whatever he had planned. Otherwise we would have been out by now, because he said 3 to 4 weeks, and now we're past that, and now it's another 3 to 4 weeks. And if it was going according to plan, we would have had a different message tonight, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. And I wonder if he had planned a different message and he had to switch it at the last minute. It just didn't and doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think what we need to do now is, put our antenna up, and I'll look for this overnight to see what kind of response comes from Iran. And of course, I know we can't trust anything that comes from that side, but it should give us some signal that we can then take with a grain of salt and analyze and see where we're at, and maybe we'll have more clarity by morning. So that's where we're at tonight. I'm honestly disappointed. I was hoping that we were going to see some end to this thing before it escalates. The other thing is, today with the address to the people of the United Kingdom from Keir Starmer, his messaging, like I said, was we're not going to get drawn into this conflict, but they're going to get drawn into the conflict. Because it was like, we're not going to go to war, but we're going to defend our interests in the Middle East. We're going to send assets there, and and I would do what's in our national interest. Opening the Straits of Hormuz will be in everybody's national interest, and if the United States doesn't do it, they'll get drawn into it. And in addition to that, you can see that it's having an impact on every country, including the UK, including here in Canada. Gas prices way up in the last just couple of days, and over there, Keir Starmer talking about that, and what he has done, what the government there is doing, is a mistake as well, I think, because they're imposing price controls instead of allowing the free market to respond. He talked about that to some degree in his address today, And I'm a free market guy, so I guess maybe temporarily you need to do something to provide relief to people. But in the long, and even in the short and medium term, you start imposing price controls on energy, that just comes back as a tax on people too. So we'll see where it goes. This is not good. I think we're running into unintended consequences. So,
speaking of going, I need to go.
Yes, me too, Jack. And I just want to say thank you, sir, for joining us here tonight. Greatly appreciate you. And I'm going to invite you back on because people here
I'd be
love
glad
you.
to. I enjoy our time, and then I enjoy the discussions. I enjoy being stretched anytime.
And thank you for basking me in positivity tonight.
All right.
Love you, Jack. And we'll
Back
be back.
at you.
We'll be back tomorrow night, everybody, 7 p.m. Eastern on the flip side. See you then.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.